pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I forgot my glasses. Can I get a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Supervisor File?
Here.
Clerk Newbeck here. Treasurer Brown?
Here.
Trustee Haywood?
Here.
Trustee Morocco?
Here.
Trustee Nalamathu? Here. And Trustee Tedder is absent at the moment. He is on his way.
Okay.
We have a quorum.
Great. Before we approve the agenda, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to remove item L2, which is a request to approve the amending Township Paving SAD District Policy and Procedure. For anyone who showed up for this particular one, I apologize. I realized too late that when the packet went out, it did not have the original policy, so the red lines probably didn't mean a whole lot because there wasn't a lot of context to it. And so I'm going to be resubmitting this for next board meeting on the 23rd.
I'll make a motion to remove item L2 from regular business.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Great. Okay, board and public announcements. The board members and/or individuals in the audience may make a statement containing information about a recent or upcoming event. I'll call you up. You come up to the center there, give your name and your address, and keep the comments to less than 5 minutes. And they're about items that are not on the agenda. Again, these are just public announcement.
We're not going to be here for the end of the meeting. Can I just give a comment?
About an agenda item?
Yes.
No, that's not how it works. Can you give it to somebody else that can make it for you?
It's up to you. So I'm just asking the board. I've got to go see my granddaughter's baseball game. So she's 12 years old.
Priorities, I can appreciate
Okay,
that. Does anybody on the board object?
I'll make it short.
No? Okay.
Okay. Frank Migliori, 4570 Wood Hall, in Clarkson, Michigan, Independence Township here. I just want to ask the board here, first of all, I'm very supportive of the community and promoting the community as Independence Township, and very proud of it. I'm also very proud of High Knob and all the things that are out there, and all the hundreds and thousands of people that in turn show up there. It is important for us as a community to be able to market ourselves and advertise ourselves and do that in front of a population that has no idea of how wonderful this community is. And to not be allowed to do that on that sign or remove that as an agenda item in the future here, in my comment, I would ask you not to do that. That's my personal opinion. That's why I came here. And unfortunately, I do have to go down to see my 12-year-old granddaughter get up. She's in a playoff game. But I thank you for that consideration of hearing from me. Thank you much, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else have any public announcements in the audience? Nope, okay, nope, nobody's online, I don't think, online, no? Okay, I'll bring it up to the board. Does any board member have a public announcement? Clerk Newbeck?
And we had to skip in a meeting, so time's gotten by a little bit, and I haven't had a chance to say something, but I wanted to thank our fire department and the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. About a month ago, I had a family emergency with my grandson, and the professionalism, the care, and just overall everything that they did to take care of my family, I'm very grateful for. I actually hadn't even made it there to see them before any of that happened, but because of their quick response, even the care from the Sheriff's Department, my grandson, who's will be turning 4 soon, was comforted by the police officer and even the attention he gave him. So very thankful, and I'm happy to say that my other grandson is doing very well, but it was very scary at the moment, and I'm very thankful for their help and that they could be there for them. So That's all.
Great, great, thank you. Okay, moving on. Public comments, kind of I always blend those two together. If anybody has one, please come up. If not, we're going to move on. Okay. Public hearing, oh, you do have, sorry, please go ahead.
I was being kind and cordial.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Mark Pedersen, 6716 Almond Lane. I'm just here to make a brief comment about how I'm pretty disturbed at how your board packet was put together. You have letters in the middle, and I understand late submittals, I understand all of that, but it doesn't make it easy for members of the general public to stand up there and scroll through all of that and find fireworks in the middle of bathroom renovations. And how certain pieces of paper were not in order. I think it's not representing of our community and poorly represented. And I hope that we work and strive very hard to help the public understand when they're reading our board packets, the township board's packets, that they're able to follow along, because I'm not your average resident, but a lot of these other people are, and they don't understand the work that you guys have to put into this. So I hope that we strive and work a little bit harder to make it a little bit easier instead of skipping through pages, et cetera. And I realize that you missed your last meeting, so, and I know there's a lot in there. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Public here, anybody else, public comments? Nope. Online?
Okay.
Nope. Okay, up on the board?
Would you
Yes?
mind if I responded to that comment?
Sure.
Because I've experienced that in the past, and usually what I have found that things look jumbled because of whatever browser I was using or however I pulled it up, but I can tell you that I've had to go back and re-download it to get it to come up in right order, and it's not the way the package is put together. I have not found that to be. But I do know what you're experiencing. I've experienced it myself. So I had to check what browser, like I said, what browser I was using, and I had to re-download it to get it to come up in order. So that's
I
all.
was using the township's own browser, township's website.
No, I meant the web browser. If you use Firefox, if you use
Firefox, yeah.
Microsoft, it depends.
Thank
It all
you.
depends. So,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Public hearing, there aren't any presentation and reports. We have the 2025 financial audit by Yo and Yo. This is being done by Linda Vance, the finance director for the township. And you don't look like Linda Vance.
He presents it, I'm just one to put it on.
Thank you.
Pass out to you.
I can pass them down.
Great, thank you. Good evening. My name is Alan Panter. I'm a partner at Yo and Yo, and I'm here to present the audit. The materials that you just received are simply hard copies of materials that you've already been provided electronically. So there's really nothing there other than just having it in a piece of paper for you. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. Let me pull up my notes. All right. So the audit went well this year. Most of the information was provided when we requested it, and we were able to complete our procedures efficiently, with a couple of exceptions. A couple of things that came in a little late we had to take care of after field work, but everything got done, and we're here within a very reasonable time frame. We started the audit in mid-April, and we're here in the beginning of June, so that's a pretty good turnaround, 6 or 7 weeks. That's pretty normal for a financial audit. So we'd like to thank everyone that we worked with at the township, but especially Linda Vance and her team, as well as the rest of the teams led by Carrie Newbeck and Paul Browns. We appreciate everyone's efforts in getting us everything that we needed to complete the audit in a timely manner. So thank you very much. Our audit included an examination of the financial reporting process, internal controls, and also certain aspects of legal compliance. When certain matters are noted, we have a responsibility to communicate those in writing. So that's when you get audit findings and management letter comments. So based on that consideration, I'm pleased to report that we have no no audit findings, no management letter comments, so that's a very positive reflection on the township, very positive reflection on the board. We went through that entire examination of internal control, compliance, and had nothing to report in terms of any sort of feedback of things that you should be doing differently. So that's a very good thing. So my plan for this evening is to briefly discuss the audit and our deliverables and to answer any questions that you have. So I do have a presentation. Oh, I guess that should have been, we have that up on the screen. I have a short presentation. I gave it to you guys, got a copy of it.
It's probably the one,
Is it one of those? Can I open it here?
the bottom one.
Is
Yeah, you
that-
should be able to click
is
on the
that-
bottom.
okay.
I believe that's it.
All right, cool. All right. And, all right, that's better. All right, so the first page there is really just covered by my general comments that I just made. And after that, I'd like to discuss the independent auditor's report. The purpose of an audit is to give you an opinion on your financial statements, not to detect fraud and not to give assurance on internal control. So it's a very important concept about what it is that we're here to do. We're here to give you an opinion on your financial statements, which is what you see represented here. Okay, so we're giving what's called an unmodified or clean opinion. That is the best opinion you can get, and it means a couple of things. It means, first of all, the statements are formatted in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So in other words, everything that's supposed to be in the statements is there. And also, based on the procedures that we perform, the numbers are good. So unmodified opinion is what you want to see. Okay. The next slide deals with the governance letter. So this is the letter that's issued with the audit. It's stapled in the back of your little packet that I gave you. Is also in the board packet too. So the governance letter is a letter that we issue with every audit that we do. It's a required communication, and it's mostly a form letter. But it does contain or could contain significant information about the audit and the results. But in this case, there's really nothing there that is of any sort of concern, I would say. Most of it is really just that boilerplate communication. But what is there is it discusses the timing and the scope of the audit. It discloses any estimates that were used in the preparation of the financial statements. So there were a couple of estimates, things like your capital assets depreciation is based on an estimate of how long those assets last. So if you have a car, if it's 5 years or something like that, that sort of thing. Any new accounting standards that were effective this year? There was one this year at GASB 102, but it really had no effect on the township. But it is in the letter just to show that it was considered. There are some informational items, discusses any difficulties or disagreements that we had, which of course we had none of those. Any misstatements we noted, which there were none of those. And if we had any management letter comments, which we have none, those would be in this letter as well. So if you have any questions, that's all I have.
Yeah, I would like to start with saying that, and asking this question this way. It's a two-part question. One, did we improve over last year?
Yes.
Okay, good. It's always good to be making advances. And two, from the standpoint of the shape of the township, based on what you saw, we're pretty rock solid, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think that's, if I'm not, and I know that we didn't go into the numbers part of it because that's not really what you do,
Right.
but I believe that we maintained revenue for 25 from 24, even though we lowered taxes. We also cut about $827,000 out of the expenses, and our asset base went up significantly.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, a good addition to fund balance.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all because of what this board here has been doing and the department heads and everything else. So, I think everybody needs to have been working very hard to get these financials and everything, all the processes, everything all straightened out. And I think everybody here has done a great job on that.
The financial position of the township, and I think that's a very positive sign as well.
And you're a resident too, aren't you?
I am a resident.
All right.
Yeah. So.
Anybody else have questions or comments? No? Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll give this to the next person. Great.
Thank you. Next, we have the Township Investment Report, which is the first quarter by Paul Brown, the treasurer. Who, by the way, did a great job in '25, and that's why our asset base is up.
Oh, it wasn't me. It was the employees. This should be familiar to the board, and most of the folks in the audience, I think, have seen this a few times, folks who have been here. I'll jump right into the beginning chart here and just a little bit of information. Right now, the Federal Reserve has remained neutral during the first quarter. Again, and that impacts, where interest rates may or may not go. Our average rate of return decreased slightly to 3.86% for the first quarter. This puts our rate of return above the benchmark yield for the second quarter in a row. And I know for a number of years, we were always below that benchmark yield. So, where the rates are right now, we are exceeding that. We have increased our average weighted maturity, and I did that by doubling the amount of investments we have in the 2 to 3 year buckets. And most of those are locked in. I think probably 70%, 30% of them are callable. And those are where I'm getting a pretty good rate, but it's also likely that that investment will be called before the maturity date. So that would stretch that to the downward side for us as far as the longevity of it. From a budgetary standpoint, I do think this is an important part. As I've analyzed what the holdings are, when the maturities are coming and what the rates are, I've got high confidence we're going to achieve our projected investment income for the next 3 years. And that's a number that exceeds $1 million a year, so it's an important part of each department's budget. Here on the maturity distribution, you'll see that in the 2 to 3 year, which is the yellow and the blue here, these are double what they were from the prior quarter. And then the rest of it's just kind of laddered out over these time periods. Again, still have a lot that's literally can mature tomorrow, but we're still in a situation where we still have some inverted yield on the yield curve because you get better rates in the next 1 year than you do 3 or 4 years out. And that is starting to change. It's getting a lot closer now. And I'm looking forward to that opportunity to be able to strategically put some things out 4 or 5 years. And then as we look at the something I'll talk about more at the next investment meeting, investment report, is money for the perpetual cemetery fund, which while it's a small number that we have to invest, I can now put that into some mutual funds and plan on putting some of that out there at 25 or 30 years to where those mutual funds really can perform well for the cemetery fund. And there's a separate account for those, so those will be counted separate. And we're talking about something below $500,000 in total. So, but it's important we get the best we can for that, and that's something probably in the future, along with the DPW director, that he and I will be talking about this and bringing something to the board so the board will see where that's at. Here is the section that talks about the benchmark yields. And these are set by statute that we benchmark against the 30 and 90-day T-bills, which are 3.64. And again, you can see 30-day is a higher rate than the 90-day. And that's when we talk about inverted yield curves. This is not normal. Normally, when you invest longer, you get a higher rate. And that's not been that way for a few years. Weighted average maturity here and average weighted yield. Unrealized gains and losses, which we always show. These are subject to change not only because of things that happen out in the finance world with rates or things that are happening in the markets. They're also impacted by things maturing or getting close to maturity, where the gains essentially disappear as we get to them paying us the face value of the T-bills or other investments that we have. I think one of the most important things we do here, because the other ones are, you can look at this and you can read this, but really this part I think is what's most important, because we show every single investment that we hold. And we report how it fits within Public Act 20, what its description is, or investment type, the description, purchase date. So when you see 3/31 and a maturity of 4/1, that means it's got a one-day maturity. This is going to be all of our checking accounts, cash accounts, money market accounts, sweep accounts. So we now have a sweep account. So the general fund basically goes down to, the general fund checking account goes to $0 at the end of the day. And if there's $3 million in there, it gets put into the sweep account, and we earn the sweep, general sweep is, sweep 3.25% interest overnight. So we'll earn 3.25% overnight, and the money's back in our checking account the next morning at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So that's worked out really well. The rest of the investments here, these are listed by maturity date, so you can look out and see where they are. Cost basis, market value, the estimated yield. And I think a year ago, you would have seen many more of these that were in this 0.71 or lower interest rate. That you see me kind of flagging right there. They're almost all gone now. Those have now matured. Now we're getting very consistent rates in the 3.5, 3.75% range. Here's the unrealized gains and losses. And again, you go through this. Public Act 20, here's where they fit. Here's the actual descriptions of what those investments are that I'm allowed to make. And of course, as is always important, this all ties out to the rest of the reports on the total value of the investments. And we include the cash accounts in every checking account we have. So this is every penny that's there. Any questions from the board?
Trustee Morocco?
Paul, I don't know what page number it's on, but it shows the investment type and then the issuer and then the value and the percentage of portfolio. It's a few pages down. Do those numbers?
I'm sorry, what percentage of the portfolio? Where is that?
You see, I don't see a page.
Below the gains.
It's below the portfolio characteristics as of March
155, I
31st,
think.
and then historical unrealized gains below that, where it shows the investment type,
Oh,
the
here.
issuer, and the value.
Oh, okay, yes,
There.
go ahead.
Are each of those numbers specific accounts, or like is one you have checking and savings, but then it doesn't say what the rest of them are? Is one like the sewer and water, and one's like
No,
our savings
no, but
account?
I can show you this. So if we go to the next page. So here's all the checking accounts. $8 million here was actually in the investment clearing account. So that means I had some things that matured at the end of, somewhere in the middle to the end of March.
Right.
So whenever I have things that mature, the brokers, it's deposited into a dedicated checking account at Chase for investment monies. So all the income goes there and any return goes there. It doesn't go into, I keep it separated from the general fund. I've done that for many years. It just makes it easier for the finance department to reconcile our general checking account versus the investment stuff. So if you add up each of these accounts here, so eBay, general checking, the tax account had 80,000 sitting in it that got dispersed a little bit later, investment clearing, and then there's a few other things. There's a playground donation, there's money from the Shashabal Road, the road millage. All these ones here prior to this money market fund, those are all essentially bank accounts at Chase Bank. And so those total that 8 million number on the other page. But we use pooled accounting. So the tracking of how much of the money belongs to each fund is done through the general ledger. And the last time I presented, I actually brought that to show it. And I plan on probably bringing that every 6 months, not every quarter, just so that people can be refreshed on it.
The reason I'm asking that is because we're getting, we're working on the CIP projects, and I was trying to figure out if any of these numbers were related to available cash or reserves that we sit on, or if that's denoted, but it sounds like it's in the other format that you present.
Well, there's no issues with any of the capital plans that might come. I can have money for that without issue. I've been very
No, I was trying to
cautious.
figure out what the dollar amount is, like what, you know, at some point, we're gonna wanna decide whether we wanna spend some savings, how much do we wanna actually hold back, you know, when we decide to
Yeah.
do capital improvements, and I just was wondering if any of these numbers were
I wouldn't
direct
try, I wouldn't try to calculate that from this because
I wasn't
this is
gonna-
all, this is all pooled. This is
Okay,
all the
that's what I
funds.
wanted to know. I certainly wasn't gonna try to calculate it, but.
No, but the next time I present, I'll have that data.
Okay, thank you.
18 million.
Okay, well, I knew it was like a number like that. That's why I thought maybe it was the 17,253, or, you know, I didn't know how
No,
it was formatted. That's the only reason was asking, but,
Sure.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
Anything
questions?
else? What's that?
Nope. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is carryover postponed agenda items. There aren't any, or I'm sorry, not consent, but carryover postponed agenda items. There are none. The next are the consent items. Request to approve, request to approve the Board of Trustees regular session meeting minutes of May 5th, 2026. 2, request to approve the May 12th and June 2nd, 2026 check run, including ACH for $867,611.07 and $1,045,261.10, and ratify the May 8th and May 22nd, 2006 payroll of $355,985 and $367,752.41. The request to approve Pitney Bowes Mill Mail Center 1000 lease agreement. Request to approve Metro FiberNet LLC locate letter agreement. Request to approve 2026 Independence Fireworks Display Permit and Contract. Request to approve fireworks display permit for Lake Oakland Fireworks Fund. Request to approve renewal of the agreement between Clarkson Community Schools and Parks, Recreation, and Seniors for registration services. And request to approve Brady Lodge rental with alcohol for Sunday, June 21st, 2026. Can I get a motion to approve as presented, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Items removed from the consent agenda, there aren't any. Again, just as a reminder that L2 has been removed. So the next item up under regular business is going to be the request to approve the that's L2. L1. Request to approve budget amendment number 11 for the planning department consulting fee for fiscal year. That was brought forth by Trustee Morocco and Jim Tedder. Just, you know, before we get into the item, I just want to make a point of information that this budget amendment was not requested by the planning director. It was not requested by the township planning consultant. It was not requested by the supervisors or the administration. Prior to tonight's meeting, I spoke with the planning director, our planning consultants, and the planning commission chair. Their consistent feedback was that the department is currently functioning appropriately and meeting its responsibilities. As with every township department, there's always opportunities for improvement. Continuous improvement should be expected and encouraged. However, the improvement opportunities are not necessarily the same thing as immediate need for additional budget authority. With that background, I will let Trustee Morocco and Trustee Tedder present this MAIF.
Okay, the reason that we brought this forward was because we knew that the reason we brought this forward was that we knew that the department was insufficiently funded to get through the whole year using the consultants, which I was under the understanding, and Jim was too, that we were going to be using Carla and Wortman to manage the planning and zoning department until we could find somebody to work for the township, be trained by them or consulted by them, and then the township could then take over the planning and zoning. An employee could take over the planning and zoning end of the planning department, which was always a part-time job in the past. And I wanted to bring this forward with Jim to have a dialogue about how we should move forward with this. We had to come forward with a budget amendment to go over the PUD agreement. I'm going to just, so We're requesting a formal budget amendment to increase the funding allocation for the Planning and Zoning Department. The $32,000 we started with this year was severely insufficient, in our opinion, to provide the level of oversight, management, and proactive administration to the township's critical requirements. In my opinion, over the past decade, a lack of consistency, high-quality management, and oversight in our planning and zoning actions has led to a noticeable decline in development quality. This long-term administrative gap is recently manifested in severe operational and financial consequences to the township. The township has been engaged in an influx of lawsuits over the last couple of years. The two most recent cases, I believe, stem from a failure of properly educating the petitioners on the community's long-term goals and objectives with qualified proactive department representation. These costly battles could have been avoided, I believe. Due to a lack of clear guidance from the township, applicants are enduring unnecessary spending and delays, severely harming our community's reputation for fair, stable, and transparent development processes. This is the input I'm getting from developers coming to the community. While the township has temporarily mitigated these immediate challenges by relying on outside consultants, this is a short-term patch. Utilizing consultants right now is a necessary stopgap to allow a successful, structured transition towards an efficient, effective, and aligned internal planning practice that will permanently protect the township and assist other key areas in need of support. What we had discussed is the need for a dedicated planning administrator and through a shared funding solution. So taxpayer resources are currently being redirected towards preventable, reactive legal battles rather than efficient, proactive management. Currently, no job opening is posted that I'm aware of, leaving us relying on internal staffing or the reoccurring high expenses of outside consultants. To correct this trajectory, the township, in our opinion, should move immediately to hire a qualified planning administrator to guide petitioners, enforce standards, and shield the township from liability. While this position has historically been a part-time role, it presents a unique opportunity to address widespread staffing shortages across multiple departments. This role can be structured or expanded to provide much-needed administrative services to other struggling departments. I believe that this position could be partially funded by the Downtown Development Authority and the Corridor Improvement Authority funds, both of which desperately require administrative assistance to run efficiently, and there is a need probably for a community and economic coordinator also. So I think that there's a lot of different jobs that this person could do for the township. The township may be understaffed across many sectors, but the Planning and Zoning Department directly impacts the property values, safety, and daily lives of every single resident, ensuring its function at a high level must be top priority for this board, utilizing whatever cost sharing and resources are necessary to achieve optimal efficiency. I would like to ask the board to approve the budget amendment to increase the Planning and Zoning Department allocation beyond the baseline of $32,000, adding the $70,000. This funding will be explicitly earmarked to authorize and post a competitive salary needed to attract a quality planning administrator, and also coordinate with the DDA and CIA to structure a shared funding mechanism to maximize budget efficiency. Investing in proper oversight today will directly reduce the thousands of taxpayers' dollars currently being drained by avoidable legal disputes tomorrow. And that's basically what the point of bringing this forward was, is that we're kind of sitting stagnant as far as I know, and the supervisor can elaborate on that, that if we aren't hiring somebody and training somebody, then we're not moving forward. And if we're not going to have the consultants on staff in the building because they're too expensive, then we're not doing the best that we can for the residents and the developers coming into this community. So this at least opens up a dialogue of how we think as a board we should move forward, because this department is critical and one of the most important departments in the township.
Okay. We'll send it out to the audience. Anybody in the audience have any comments on this? Please come up, state your name, address.
Yes, Joette Kuntz, 9740 Reese Road. I would like to see a good planning development department with someone who knows the community. Planning is one of the most important things in this township, as there is some growth still there. Orderly community development, and most of all, it protects my property value and yours also. It's our community vision, and it shapes the local vision of the community. I have to say, if you look across the street, that isn't necessarily the vision I like to see. Our treasurer said, well, we have to have low-income buildings or houses. Well,
What?
$440,000, well, we have to invite young people in and have a cost of, so they have housing that they can afford. $440,000 is not housing that most young people can afford. So I think as a member of the community, it is our vision, and we need someone, a good person that knows what they're doing. They have a background in planning. I'm not sure that I want Wortman, because they don't live here usually. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes? Name?
Hi, Mark Pedersen, 6716 Almond Lane. This is the first I'm hearing about something like this. It's a very good idea, Mr. Morocco. I believe as board members, when you're protecting the township, you're protecting the taxpayers. And frivolous lawsuits, et cetera, from planning and zoning mistakes, we just can't afford that, and the residents can't afford it. But I really think that moving forward, if we were to have something like that, we've needed that for decades. And finally, somebody's got the guts to stand up and say, hey, let's talk about this, let's open dialogue, let's see if we can come to an agreement. So I hope the very best for all of you, that you can get something like this along. I personally would fully support it.
Are you working your way up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be there in about 10 minutes. As you can see, I'm getting along okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Bill Scarborough, Chairman of the Planning Commission. The supervisor said I said something that I really don't think I said. You said that I thought everything was, I don't remember the exact words, fine in the planning department. I did express some frustration over the need to amend the budget to provide money for an ordinance amendment. As you all know, I have other experience on the planning commission. It was never on a different planning commission. It's never the way it happened. Planning commission was always budgeted money for consultants, and when we felt something needed to be amended, we worked with a consultant, got the document drafted, and presented it to the board. As Secretary Newbeck said at one of the prior board meetings, again, I don't remember the exact words, but didn't the planning commission just used to do this? Didn't they have the money for this? And I don't remember exactly, but something to that effect. This was an amendment that we were working on for probably over 2 years, year and a half, and I expressed the frustration with the political process and how it slows things down, and I recognize the need for that, and I was disappointed that the need to go through this was just another hurdle. I also expressed that I really don't know what goes on in the day-to-day workings of the planning department, so I really can't speak to how things are going there. I don't recall at all saying things were fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
All set?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not going to comment. Anybody else? Okay, we don't have online anymore, so. Oh, right.
Ray Llewellyn, 9254 Pine Knob Road. I just kind of want to reiterate a lot of what Joette said. but also about the Planning Commission. If you look across the street, and many of us do not care for that project and the development, I know at the time, when my husband and I both saw pretty much all the trees and clear cutting taking place, we called the township. And we were told, oh, that's MDOT doing that. Well, MDOT doesn't come across that fence line. The clear cutting was happening on this side of the fence, going to the fence. Oh no, that's MDOT. Well, my husband called, Arnie Llewellyn called MDOT directly, spoke to them. They sent somebody out there because they couldn't believe that they had somebody out there doing something. No, they didn't have anyone out there doing that. Again, another call back to the township, and it was like, oh, well, that's how it is. So, too bad. Well, we're the taxpayers. We're the ones that look at this. We're the ones that our property gets impacted on this whole community. And I just think if you had a planning department that looked at that and said, okay, this is how this is going to be developed, and had restrictions on things, and actually made things happen the way that they were supposed to be developed, it would make a difference. So thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Nope, okay, looks like we're back up. Anybody online? Nope, okay, I'm gonna close public comments and bring it back up to the board. Anybody on the board have any comments?
Yeah, I'll go ahead since I was co-sponsor of the MAPE, and I'm certainly not as in the weeds as Trustee Morocco in terms of his experience on the Planning Commission and decades of experience in that regard. So I do, when he speaks to these things, for me, I take a pause and listen. And I would say I think the first thing the board did correctly was to realign planning and zoning. I think that was a good first step. And certainly Carlisle Wortman has been a trusted consultant for us for many years, and certainly likely that they'll continue to play a role in the future. But I do think that it's time for us to move toward a dedicated planning zoning administrator. And I know there's been some preferences expressed about intimate knowledge of the local unit. So that, along with that comes money. I understand Supervisor File. I had a cordial conversation. You think this is perhaps the mechanism through which we approach and, requesting budget amendments and whose purview that is, and I can appreciate all of that, but just taking a broad approach, I think the spirit of this is to move toward filling that void and getting a reliable and trusted planning zoning administrator, and just looking, I think, even in like county administrator, in like the Clinton County area as an example, just as is around probably $70,000-$80,000. And so what that looks like here in Independence, perhaps could be more, could be less, depending upon the demands of the job. But again, those are some of my thoughts. I just thought I'd get out in front of the greater discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Hayward?
Yeah, I'm glad this was brought up because I did have a question about where we are going with the department. Being on the ZBA, there was a day that I had come in, and I know that Benny had been here, and he's part of Carlisle Wortman, and I knew he was working the desk. And prior to that, we had somebody who was here all the time to answer questions, and I came in, and most of the people in the building department don't know who I am, and I just walked up and I said a question about zoning, and I needed to talk to somebody, and they pushed me a piece of paper and said, you can call this number. And I'm a resident here as well, and my concern is the level of service that we're providing the residents or anybody that's coming here to do business. I was concerned with that. I didn't know Benny had left. I don't know exactly what changes are happening back there, specifically what's going on, that I would have had to call. Fortunately, I was able to talk to Dave, and we did talk about a couple of things. And so my question, I guess, is that I know that on March 10th, we approved a head count and that position for a zoning administrator. I haven't seen it posted, and I don't know where we are with any of it. I'm kind of curious as to where we're going, what the future plan is. And if, we've cut back over there, why, and do we need this money? So that's the question, is the level of service that we're providing and why we're not moving forward with hiring somebody.
All right,
If
anybody else?
anybody has any answers, I don't know.
Okay, so what I want to be clear about that, my position tonight is not based on opposition to the planning department or the consultants or the service being provided to the residents. The issue before us is one of governance, process, and board roles. As I was talking earlier to Trustee Tedder, trustees have an important oversight responsibility. Trustees should ask questions, review expenditures, evaluate performance, request information, and hold administration accountable. However, oversight is different from the administration. The planning director is responsible for managing the department. The consultants are responsible for providing professional planning service. The supervisor's office is responsible for administration and budget oversight throughout the year. When operational funding needs arise, those requests should originate from the planning department director or through the supervisor's office. The process exists for a reason. It ensures decisions are based on operational needs rather than individual board members' preference. It protects the township, the staff, and the administration, and the board. Tonight, we're being asked to approve a $70,000 budget increase that was not requested by the department, was not requested by the administration, was not requested by the consultants responsible for providing the services, and I don't believe that this establishes a need for the board's action at this time. To answer the question about the $70,000, I had Linda, I don't even know, that number is so far off base, I'm not even sure how you came up with it. I asked Linda, head of finance, to go through and bring forward to me and put together a spreadsheet, which, sorry, I thought he passed it down, that goes through and adds up all the Carl Wortman invoices they've submitted. Right now, we're looking at a total of $60,000 for the year as of today, of which $20,000 is carryover from last year. So if we look at a cash flow standpoint, we spent $60,000, $20,000 is from last year, so that means $40,000 we incurred this year. Of that $40,000, $20,000 of it came from the ZBA's requests and the planning department. We need to understand of that other $20,000 that's in there is that the applicants pay for a lot of those costs that are incurred by Carl Wortman. They're in there going through and taking a look, and we turn around and bill through their escrow accounts, those types of things. Same thing with the DDA, same thing with the CIA. All those get billed for the Carl Wortman's things. So over the last 5 months, we have seen only $20,000 being spent on the consultants. That's it. It doesn't warrant a $70,000, which, by the way, in this township with its benefits, assuming a family, which was what we always plan, worst case scenario, worst case most expensive, is that you're looking at about $110,000 for the fully loaded cost of hiring somebody. Okay? Why are we spending that kind of money when it only costs $20,000? We also know, and as Trustee Morocco will know very well, that building is seasonal. In the first quarter, the end of the first quarter, the second quarter, that's when we're going to incur the most costs with the consultants, because that's when they're going through the plan reviews, they're looking at all the different things going on, permits and all that kind of stuff. It very quickly dies, and dies off, as we've seen by the fact that the ZBA has started canceling meetings because there isn't anything on the ZBA. The Planning Commission's things have started getting very light in that standpoint, which, by the way, a solid planning administrator will not take care of some of the points that were brought up. A planning administrator is somebody who's more, the definition, if we look at what Carl Wortman provided for a planning administrator, is kind of more of a clerical type position, okay? And that's what, if we're gonna pay $70,000 or $110,000 fully loaded for a clerical position, I will always be against that. There's a reason why we got such a great review from the auditor, why our budget dropped by $827,000, because we're looking at things a little bit more responsibly. Even if Carl Wortman costs us double, that's only 40 on 110. Okay, that doesn't make sense to me. So I wanted to make sure that we were clear on the numbers It's not 70,000 a month, it's 70,000 or 60,000, 10 to 12,000 every month for all costs. But the township doesn't, taxpayers do not pay all the costs. They pay only a percentage of those costs. And that percentage is where you would look and say, okay, if I brought this in-house, would it suddenly save us money or give us something better that's reasonable for that better cost? Going through and quadruple or 5 times as it stands now, let's just assume it's going to be triple to quadruple the time. I don't think that's going to come into play here because, again, ultimately, all this planning, development, everything else goes to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, the thing that Trustee Morocco sits on, they're the ones who actually go through and have to get the opportunity to go through and say, yes, no, make these changes, don't make these changes. The only thing that the planning administration person would do is to give guidance on how things can go. At the end of the day, it goes to the Planning Commission. I shouldn't say the end of the day, it goes to the Planning Commission. Then it ultimately comes back to the board. The board has the final say. That over there that has been pointed out had relatively little to do with the planning administrator, or the planning director for that matter, because it came to the Planning Commission and then it ultimately came to the board. Those are the stopgaps. Those are the things where we need to focus on the education. I agree 100%. Education should be extremely important. And for the Planning Commission to get it trained on all the ordinances and everything else is extremely important. Because I know for a fact, as being board members here at this level, we don't have the in-depth knowledge to be able to go through and say, okay, what about this, 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 and this, other than Sam? This, this, and this, and this. But that's why we rely so heavily on the Planning Commission. And so that's kind of why I think, look at this and say, if the director of the department isn't asking for more money because they need more help, the residents aren't complaining beyond their normal, because they always get told yes or no on some things. Anytime you get told no, you're not happy. That isn't happening at a greater frequency than it's happened in the past. So the basis for this seems to me to be unfounded at this point in time. That does not mean that there couldn't be an opportunity going forward if things change, that we may need to take a look at an increase in the budget. But that's an operational administration thing, and that should be determined, with all due respect, by the planning director themselves to determine if they need to be able to have that assessment and need that help. That's their job, to be able to go through and determine what do we need, when do we need it, and so forth. It is not our job as trustees and oversight. It is our job to ask questions, for sure, but it's not our job to go through and start saying you need to go hire people when they're saying we don't need the people. That's overstepping, and that's the difference between being a trustee with oversight and then being a director with administrative responsibility or day-to-day responsibility. With that, I'm sure we're going to get some additional questions.
Yeah.
Trustee Morocco.
Well, I'd like to respond because I disagree with a lot that you said, and I understand because you don't have a background in planning and zoning, so that's, you know, we're in a unique situation. I do. I've been here a long time. I see all the failures of this township's planning and zoning. I talk to the petitioners. I know as a builder that I go to a township and I say, hey, I want to do this, and they're like, there ain't no way that's happening. Our township has taken the approach like, well, spend $350 and see if you can get it through, you know, and then we're relying on the staff that we, you know, the planning commissioners, you know, which are just residents who don't have a degree in planning and zoning, and they're making decisions, sometimes right and sometimes wrong. I feel like that's how we got into one of the lawsuits. There's other people that have come to me and said, hey, I got misled to believe that this project was a go, so I put all my eggs in the basket, and then I just got shut down and set back a year, and it cost them a ton of money because of that. Dave Moran is a great building official, but he admittedly does not have, his background is not zoning and planning. I was under the understanding that we were going to have a staff member of Carlin Wortman every week at the township to be the point of contact to correct the problem we were having before, which is why we made that move. So the Planning Commission has a bunch of ordinances that we want to work on and clean up, and we need funding for it. And we've been hamstringed and dragged along and have to beg for every penny to do what we want to do, and that's because the department's underfunded. to me, this is the most important department in the township. It affects traffic, it affects density, it affects pollution, tree cutting, quality of life, it's everything, and you're just concerned about the budget, saving money. This should be the most highly funded department because it has the most people and it should have the most qualified people, which we haven't had. So it's, if we're not hiring somebody and you don't think we need anybody, I disagree, because I know that the ordinance officers have a list of ordinances that they want to have tweaked. I know the planning commission has ordinances that they want to have worked on. And I'm very concerned about who is talking to these people when they come into the building, because that hasn't worked out so well before, and now I'm hearing that they're not even here and it's a phone call. And I just think that to worry about a little bit of money to eliminate that service, to be part-time planning and zoning, we're a community of 40,000 people. There's work, that person, that everyday person. What we haven't had in the past, and you haven't been here as long as I have, is that person that we hire needs to have a clear understanding of the direction and the tolerance that we want the township to go in, so that they can convey that to the petitioners that come into the building and say, this is not going to fly, we're not going that direction, that's not what we're looking for, we expect better. And that works in all other communities. And there's some issues with the zoning board and what their authority should be, and that's going to require money to be worked on. So I'm not interested in preserving the $800 and some $1,000 savings. What I'm interested in is putting enough money in the account so that everyone who wants to do what they need to do has the funds to do it. We don't have to beg for it. It doesn't have to go through your office. No offense, but you're not a planning and zoning person. It's not your background. So you don't understand all the problems that are going on with it. You're just getting feedback from the staff in the building. That's not a good point of access and information, because I'm getting it from the developers and the builders that are calling and complaining, and over the years and years of problems that we've had, and I'm trying to make sure that we can fix that problem. And right now, I don't see us doing anything. We're not hiring anyone. We're not staffing us with consultants. We're literally doing nothing. We're just stagnant, and this is way too important of a department to just blow it off for to try to save some money, in my opinion.
Good. Down here. Clerk.
With what trustee Hayward said, I didn't realize that we were pushing phone numbers to residents. Is that how do we operate 3 days a week that way?
Please.
What'd she say?
Talking
You
to
couldn't hear me?
Yes.
I said, what is happening with passing a phone number to residents at the counter? Do we not have somebody that can answer questions 3 days a week, 1 day a week? What is?
So we do have somebody at the counter answering questions. We have somebody answering emails. And then anything that would have normally escalated to the level of the director gets handed off to Carlisle Warman, Megan specifically.
Who's that
So,
person?
It's our previous director.
That's a problem.
No, that's your problem. That's not a problem.
Township problem.
Well, first of all, don't comment about employees. Do not comment on employees. You can't do that. They have rights. You can't say there's a problem with employee. Don't do it again.
I'm
I
talking
don't-
about the department now. We
can
have
I-
this
can I get the-
conversation
can I have the
every
floor?
time. There's
Can I have
only
the
one
floor?
person in the department, okay?
Point of
I
order.
can't-
Order. One person at a time, please. Treasurer Brown.
Thank you. So I kept my mouth shut the whole time. I didn't, except when the board starts saying things that can be viewed in a negative light about employees, you can't do it. It's illegal. The employee has a right to know they're going to be talked about in a meeting, and they have a right to request that it's done in a closed session. It's state law. And it's terrible for the morale of the employees when anyone on this board starts talking about employees. I'm here every day. I get here at 6:30, 7 in the morning, and I'm here till we close, and I see the employees. And nothing is harder on them than they believing that someone on this board says anything in public about them or insinuates there's something wrong with them. It needs to stop, and I just don't know how to stop it when doing so is against the law. As a board, we cannot do that. We have to be more professional than that. I don't have a problem with board members thinking there's something that needs to be improved in a department. That can be put forward without talking about employees. And I'm just saying, let's stop doing that. I would really appreciate it. Now, as far as what we're talking about here, it's an operational issue. The board could say right now, put more money in there, Mr. Supervisor, for an employee. You know what? He doesn't have to hire anyone. He has the authority over the employees. He got elected, and he has that right. And for me, the number of times I've been beat up by Trustee Morocco with the comment that I care more about the developers than I do the residents, and yet I've heard him 3 times saying he wants to take action because the developers are complaining. I can't believe my ears, because he's always told me I shouldn't care about the developers, but suddenly they're complaining, and so there's a problem. But when the supervisor hasn't identified a problem, the supervisor's in charge.
How's he going to identify a problem?
I have the floor.
Okay.
I make suggestions to the supervisor when I see things that are not in my department, that, hey, you think we might be able to do this or that? I give it to him. It's up to, if he wants to do something, fine. But it's his authority, and I'm not gonna go stepping on his authority. And I think pushing to put more money in the budget to hire someone is not the same thing as saying we want more money that can be spent by the planning commission or the ZBA to review things. That's a separate item. And I'd listen to that without issue if something's brought forward to say we need to spend more money on some consultants to help put together ordinance changes. But that's not what this is. This is essentially saying, go hire somebody, and the board doesn't have the authority to do that, I don't believe. And I guess I want to ask a legal question, to our attorney, does the board have the ability to tell the supervisor to go hire someone and tell them who to hire?
No. He's in charge of personnel. You do have different positions, and it's up to the supervisors to fill that position.
Or not?
Well, Dan,
Or not.
I'm done.
if the supervisor doesn't know whether or not the staff is doing a good job or the department's running efficiently, how is that not part of the oversight for us to say, we have knowledge of failure and you're doing nothing about it? And that's okay? We just, for the 4 years that the supervisor's here, we just let a department run poorly that he's in charge of? I mean, how's that work?
You've expressed your opinions to the supervisor that you need more assistance, more help, more expertise in the planning department. If the supervisor decides not to take your advice, the board, what's the board to do? Direct the supervisor to hire somebody that he doesn't want to hire? I think that the supervisor is in charge of personnel and the workplace.
Okay.
Is that the same?
Trustee Hayward.
Yeah, I had a question. So the building director came before us on March 10th and requested a position for a zoning administrator. We approved it unanimously. We approved a budget for that position unanimously, and now you're saying we don't need to fill it?
I'm saying I did fill it
By who?
by Brian. So Brian is going through and doing it, but it didn't cost us anything to do it. And he's been doing it for a month and a half. So I did fill it. And that's why Benny's not here anymore. That's why we're not pushing phone numbers. Trustee, or I'm sorry, clerk.
The only thing I was going to say was to Sam, instead of taking the comments that you're getting from these developers, if you want action, it's got to come where he's making the decisions. We're not in control of personnel. If these developers have these complaints, email the board, and email him, copy the board so that the board's aware, so that he hears it. He's not hearing it. You're hearing it.
I've done
So
that,
there's-
Carrie, with other supervisors of this problem. I've sent it to HR, I've sent it to supervisors. He knows about it. We've talked about these
But not you sending
situations.
it.
So Dan, what's the next step? Would it be to
Hey, first of all,
request a
hey,
would it be to request a performance
Hang
review?
on.
Or how do we
Sam,
figure out, because
Sam,
he doesn't
there's other
know.
people that would like to talk.
Okay,
We'll come back around to you, I promise.
One of my biggest issues on this is how it was even presented. The two of you, this entire year, have been all about policy and procedure and how we are doing things. And this is not in your scope. So I'm going to put it back to you. It needs to be policy and procedure, and this is not how this is done.
If I may first, yeah, I'm not a policy expert in the sense of finding the right mechanism, and I said in my comments earlier that this is a vehicle, imperfect as it may be, this is a vehicle to address a problem in terms of having a zoning and planning administrator and having the commensurate funding so that our planning commission and other commissions like it have the means to do the work that they need to do. So I understand, and again, I talked to Supervisor File on the way here, and we had a cordial conversation about this, and I didn't disagree about the vehicle and the mechanism. But the important thing is this was brought to light through this MAFE, as imperfect as it may be. There's valid content here for discussion, and that's what's playing out right now.
So, I'm going to make my short comment. I think that one of the things that you're bringing up past, and one of the things that I changed when I got here was the P2. And the P2 is a meeting so that all the interested parties in the township can get together and listen to any plan that's brought, of which you're one of the members on the P2, and they go forward. And we do tell them before they put an application fee or anything else in, here's, they present their things, and we do tell them as a group of all interested people, fire, DPW, the engineers, everybody, whether we think it's going to fly or not. And more times than not, you are one of the biggest individuals who's expressed their opinions about certain aspects of things that you really care about, which is obviously the setbacks and those types of things. You're very adamant about it. They get a good hearing on what your expectations are, as not only as a board member, but also as a trustee. So they are getting all that information that you said other townships do, but we don't do. That is exactly not true. We actually go way beyond what other townships do. And I know that because I've talked to other supervisors and asked them if they do that as well.
So I guess where I don't understand is that what was the point of separating the two departments if it wasn't to change the operations and the procedures of the planning and zoning department and put it back under Dave? And now we're going back to the exact same failed ways that we had, that we're in these lawsuits and different things, and now it's just like being lazy. This is the easy thing to do. Just go back to the old way, and when you own your own company, you have the ability to decide whether or not you have certain departments, have certain staffs, how they perform, whether you like them or not, whether you don't like them or all that. I look at this position as we're trying to make it the very best that it can possibly be for the residents. And we're not, going backwards is not doing the very best for the residents. Going forward would be much better. This, to me, is just appears to be, only because we have, the way that the structure of the departments are set up that, we're hamstringed on being able to say what we want to say. But you know what I'm saying. We had a plan, we changed the plan, we were moving forward, and then you decided that you didn't want to spend the money on Carlisle and Wortman to do the job. So the lazy way is just go back to what we were doing.
Okay.
It's not the better way.
Point of
It's not the
information,
better
that is
way.
not true. We did not go backwards. We actually took somebody, because I heard several audience members say that being a part of the community, understanding the community, the history of it, no one's going to understand that out of the gate the way the person that I have doing it now, okay? So that's BS. Second of all, I did put in the P2. I also said that if it becomes necessary, we will go through and do it. And going backwards is that individual is not the director anymore of the department, okay? There's many layers now in between that individual and the ultimate outcome. If we want to take a look at things like was brought up across the street, you voted 13 times yes for it. So it doesn't matter what the planning director would have said. You voted 13 times yes across the street. That's the thing about the planning commission. That's the thing about the board. That's where the responsibility and the controls come into play, to make sure that type of stuff doesn't happen again. It is not going to be a planning administrator who is just a clerical person.
But then you should agree, the board should agree, that since none of you have any extensive knowledge of this department, that you would be in favor of doing having a performance review done on
We
the
have
people that-
Megan, who is,
No, not a Megan, the people that are talking to the people.
Okay, so hold on a second. We should not be talking about employee performance reviews. It doesn't belong on this table.
I agree.
Don't bring
I'm
up
talking about the department, Paul. You keep bringing up people. I'm talking about the department.
a performance review is
On
on
the planning and zoning department and what's
recognized?
happened.
Okay. Treasurer Brown.
The board has to be patient when they want to respond, okay? I have a right to be able to say some stuff. I keep my mouth shut when it's other people's turns. The folks can't hear what we're saying either. I think it works you get your point across just as well if we get recognized by the supervisor and then make our comments. Again, I know I jump in, but when we start talking about things that could be going over that edge of discussing performance reviews, a performance review isn't done on a department, it's done on people. And the employees are hearing this. The board's gonna direct performance reviews now? This is bad, and it's bad for morale. We gotta stay in our lanes. I'm done.
Okay. So we have a motion on this, Maeve. I believe we've had adequate conversation on this, unless somebody has something brand new they want to bring. No? You now, Matthew?
Is it something, instead of talking about a person per se, that if they wanted a little bit of an increase, they have the freedom to call Carlisle Wortman when they want? I mean, isn't that what they're for?
So the interesting thing to address that is that the director, or the chair of the planning commission sat on the budget review to establish the budget for this year. We went through the budget, we talked about the different items and what they're looking at. That's how the budget got done, by the way. It wasn't just me sitting in my office and doing it. It was working with the planning commission chair. The other thing is that there's nothing that says that the planning commission, in which, if that's the big concern there, or the DDA, or the CIA, if they have concerns and they want to bring a new idea or a new project because they didn't think about it last year, which stuff happens, new stuff happens all the time, so you can't predict 100% of the future, then they just need to come to the board and explain what they want to do. I don't understand, for somebody who's claimed for so long about transparency and all that, that you want to create a big slush fund so that you can go and tap it whenever you want. I think it's better to go back through and say, okay, here's what we reasonably think we want to do. That's what we did in the budget meeting. Now, if we're going to go outside of that budget, then I think you should have to come back to the board and explain what that need is. You did it with the PUD review, that you wanted to do it. I think it was $6,000 or $7,000. I think it was approved unanimously across the board here. It was explained, we said sure, it went on. I do understand from the chair of the planning commission, that's one of the things he was kind of like, well, that kind of sucks that we have to go through that process, but you know what? We all have to go through that process if we want to make an amendment. We can't come back and say, and just give me this big slush fund that I can go through and work down however I want. I don't think that's being transparent to the township, especially after we went through the budget review.
It's not a slush fund, Supervisor. It's this money, the 10 to 12,000 a month, was to do what we had originally agreed to do, which
Okay, we
is
already agreed that
have Carlisle
information-wise,
and
a point
them-
of information, we already discussed that it is not 10 to 12,000 a month, it is closer to 3 to 4,000 a month. That spreadsheet there clearly.
to have someone here one day a week doing what we had originally agreed to do. Having Carl Mormon
Yeah.
here one day a week, not handing out phone numbers and not talking to people in other
We
departments
have-
about planning and zoning.
Okay,
So
again,
you-
we're rehashing things.
Well-
So let's just get to the motion and figure out where we're going. So does somebody want to make a motion on this, please? I don't have it on here. Where's my motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to
Okay.
move to approve the budget amendment 11 as presented.
Can I get a second, please?
I don't know that this is the right vehicle, respectfully. So I'm in accord with a lot of what's been said from Trustee Morocco, but I'm willing to work with Supervisor and the board to have proper discussions about this, because I think what's on the table here is relevant. I don't want to just support something if this isn't the right vehicle, and so I just would maybe welcome some input on that.
Let's
before-
adjust the amount.
before. I don't know if it's an amount per se, but
So-
what I'm hearing, is the importance of this position and having competent, be it Carla Wortman, a new hire, what have you, proper funding where necessary. So, but again, I'll welcome the other board's comments on that.
So we still have a motion out there. Do we have somebody that's willing to second it? No? Okay, then we take no action. Next item on the agenda is the number 2, which is the one that I pulled. Again, I apologize for anybody who came here specifically for that. Because I did not, and I'll take the ownership on it. I did not include the original policy, which I think in order to be able to get a proper understanding of what the modifications that I was asking for, without having that context, I think it's asking too much of people. And I also don't believe that by waiting another 2 weeks to roll this out, which I think this is probably one of the few things up here, maybe the board will unanimously, I don't want to say that. I believe that it's a fantastic type thing for the township, and I'm excited in 2 weeks to bring it back out. The next thing is to request the approved plan unit development, which is the permit condition, clarification against phase 2 through 5 of Eagle. And for that, we have Mr. Moran, who is the director of the Planning and Building Department, and also we have Megan from Carlisle Wortman.
Good evening, board. We are revisiting something that was tabled back on the board meeting on May 5th, 2026. This is a proposed amendment to Eagle Ridge at Morgan Lake PRD. It was approved. A viable community well site was promised to be conveyed to the township during phase 2 through 5 per the permit conditions. A viable site has been identified and located in the geographic location of phase 4. The builder of phase 3 wishes to start that phase, but township staff, attorneys, and consultants have not issued permits. We have been concerned that if phase 4 was not to be constructed, the well site would not be dedicated. The clarification agreement before us offers a way for phase 3 of Eagle Ridge at Morgan Lake PRD to proceed without township relinquishing any rights under the permit conditions, specifically the permit conditions requirement that the developers convey a viable community well site to the township when the permit restriction applies phases 2 through 5. The clarification agreement includes a 2-year trigger in section 3.1, and it states if the builder has not submitted a complete phase 4 final site plan application for township review within 2 years of the effective date of the agreement, the builder, at its sole cost and expense, shall provide the township alternative access easement, granting the township perpetual access to the well site. The proposed agreement is intended to clarify and implement existing permit obligations rather than modify them, creating a sequence and conditions where permits for phase 3 may be issued even though the well site has not been dedicated. Under the proposed clarification agreement, no phase 4 permits may be issued until the well site is formally dedicated and access is established. So I'm going to allow for any questions, and either I'll answer or you can answer.
Let's first go to the audience. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments on this? And I shouldn't say questions. Anybody have comments on this? No? Anybody online? No? Okay, let's bring it up to the board. Anybody, board members? Trustee Morocco?
This is like deja vu. So again, I'm going to start with the same thing we said at the last meeting. Why are we not amending the PUD if they're not going to comply with it? I've never heard of this, whoever dreamed up the communication, the clarification thing, which is not part of our normal procedure for a PUD. We have a PUD agreement, again, which wasn't provided for us to look at after we requested it at the last meeting, so we're no farther along today than we were last week, but at the last meeting. But Again, it makes no sense why we're deviating and we're not following the proper procedure of amending the PUD, that somebody made up this clarification way of getting around it, and I don't understand what the logic of it and how the township benefits from it.
So I'm going to defer to Mr. Kelly in case I get something incorrect, but from what my understanding is that this was something that was negotiated between the applicant and the township's attorneys in order to have a way for Phase 3 to go forward with the township having assurances that the well site would be dedicated. And it didn't rise to the level of an amendment, so the clarification, this is the method that was chosen. I wasn't part of those negotiations, so I can't tell you why and how. In terms of not having the original agreement, I have that in a folder in the back. I was not aware when putting together the MAIF that that was a request. If you chose to table, that could be absolutely put into the request, or I can get a copy right now of what it is. But in short, what this does is it allows Phase 3 to go forward and allows the township to have assurances that no matter what happens with Phase 4, the township will have access to a dedicated well site. And what's changed between previous amendments to this and Phase 2 is that the well site was not located at that time, and there weren't assurances that it was a viable well site until, I believe, a few months ago.
Okay, if I still may.
Please.
I'm going to pass these down to everybody. These are the blueprints that show the well site and where it goes in their Phase 3 and their Phase 4 program that were submitted on January 15th of last year. So the fact that nobody knows where the well's going or how we're going to get to it seems a little bit out of character. And if you look at this, I highlighted in pink that the well site is actually in Phase 3. So I feel like this is a big smoke and mirror game. Like, that was submitted to the Planning Commission last January. And we had brought up the fact that there were backyards that had went into the containment area, you know, and that was a big dialogue that we had at the meeting. So again, I don't understand why the PUD agreement isn't the assurance that they're going to designate the well when it has to be designated before Phase 2, which has already been built. So to have an agreement as a mechanism to enforce the well agreement, which we already have, everyone keeps talking about this, that this now gives us the avenue or the path to the well. We already have the path to the well. It's in the PUD agreement. And according to the township lawyer's legal opinion, the board may be aware that under the PRD agreement, section 4.4, Clearview must convey to the township a viable community well site at its expense. The viable community well site, per terms of the PRD, is required to be dedicated to the township before any building permits may be issued on Phase 2, 3, or 4, or 5. Although the test well lies in Phase 4, in my opinion, per the requirement of PRD, the dedication requirement applies prior to issuance of any building permits in Phase 2, making the condition precedent even for Phase 3 permits. And then at the bottom it says, I note that the PRD expressly prohibits issuance of building permits for Phase 2 until such time that a viable well is dedicated to township. Based on this authority, in my opinion, it is appropriate for the board to require the dedication of the viable well site as a condition of approval of Phase 3. So I don't even know what you guys are all talking about. We have a PUD agreement. We have an opinion. We have a viable well site. We have it on here. Where is this all coming from that we're negotiating out our PUD agreement? I just still can't get my head around why we're even here.
Okay, let me start with, first of all, consultants don't negotiate anything, all right? We follow the direction of our clients, and we make recommendations that are in the best interest of the township. The agreement is in front of the board for approval tonight. If you don't want to approve it, then you don't approve it. There's no like nefarious thing going on here. That's number one. Number two, as I understand it, the permit conditions included, because this is a dedication of the well site, all right? That means the township has to accept the location and the access easement and the utility easements. That is to be determined, I believe, correct me, Megan or Dave, that is determined by your DPW director and your engineer. In the course of this dedication of the well site that apparently is identified, there were conditions, if you will, by both the DPW director as well as the engineer. They wanted assurances of utilities primarily and access. Those could not be determined until the site plan for Phase 4 was decided. This is a compromise of, in my opinion, an original agreement from whenever it was, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that didn't account for a sequencing that made sense, all right? We recognized that the developer probably doesn't have the utility and or the access agreements all laid out because they don't have a final site plan for Phase 4. And so we drafted an agreement that maintained the assurances for the township that you were going to get a well site, you were going to get the access, you were going to get the utility easements. You weren't going to get them just now until you had the final site plan approval for the 4th phase, period. So if the board doesn't think that that's a reasonable compromise, then it's not a reasonable compromise.
Well, in fact, I just ask a question. You've had some time, so let me just ask a question real
Right.
quick. Dan, is basically what you're saying is that we're pulling forward their commitment to dedicating that piece of property to us, the well site to us, right? We're not we're actually accelerating that transfer?
Not really, no. Actually, I mean, we are certainly allowing the developer a compromise from the original permit conditions. Now, the permit conditions are part of the PUD agreement. That's why we called it a clarification, because it is a clarification of the permit conditions. And part of that involves the township's involvement, i.e. the DPW director and your engineer's acceptance of that dedication, which they're not prepared to do until they know the exact location of the utility easements and the access easements. So I wouldn't say that we're pulling forward. When that was being discussed, my office said, well, let's get assurances that if the 4th phase never happens, we still get this community well. And that was added to this contract. And that is a benefit to the township that did not exist if
That's
you
what I
would.
meant by pulling it forward.
And if that's what you meant,
Yeah.
then I agree, yes.
Okay. Treasurer Brown.
Just to help me understand, the assurance means exactly what? If it's not built, do we have legal action to claim property?
Where you sit right now is that we can deny issuing permits for Phase 3 because Sam is correct.
Yes, but assuming we accept this, I've heard it said
Yes.
by several people, we now have assurances. I want to understand that assurances mean that if it costs us 400 grand to put in a well site and Phase 4 never gets built and the developer is gone,
Yeah.
what's actionable for us to not be financially penalized or unable to get the spot we need based on our department? Is that what the insurance is?
Well, the insurances are, one, they've agreed in the agreement to do it. Two, they have to do it within 2 years. And three, within 30 days, they have to give us at least the location and the legal descriptions of the parcel that they're going to use.
Within 30 days of today?
Of the agreement being approved.
Okay.
Question. Okay, with Clerk. Clerk Newbeck.
I want some clarification of what Sam said. I thought, it sounded like you read either from the PUD or the permit conditions that this had to be done before any permits were issued for Phase 2.
Yes.
Correct.
So then how are we here?
We
How did-
already,
what happened?
we already gave them a free pass on that.
What happened? We dropped the ball?
I don't know, was there an amendment?
What happened?
The history of the PRD goes way back, 20-plus years. So the phasing has changed. We have new developers in there. So the phasing is up to phase 4 now. So we're talking about phase 3, issuance of permits. It's different. From the history of this PRD, the phasing has changed because of different developers being involved.
But even if developers changed, we still issued permits in phase 2 without having the well dedicated.
But it was, the dedication was only, it was stipulated between phases 2 and 5. Well, we don't have a phase 5 anymore. So again, it was just, the history of it, it was stated to be dedicated either through phase 2 through 5. It wasn't specific.
Didn't sound like that's what did you read from?
I read from the legal opinion on it. That's not what the
Oh.
agreement was, and I don't remember that being on the planning commission, that was the agreement. And again, we don't have a copy of it to review, but in Dan's opinion, it was prior to phase 2. And what I don't get is, I don't understand how we don't have assurances. We have a PUD agreement, and you can't get a PUD agreement unless you give the township something. And what they gave us was the well dedication, and we still haven't got it yet, and they keep building houses. You don't get a PUD just by right. You have to offer the township something in return, and then we agree to allow you to have a PUD. And what was given to us is the well dedication. After phase 1 was built, we were supposed to get the well dedication, and that's how you qualify to build all these homes as a PUD, and they haven't met the requirement. So I don't understand how we don't have a mechanism for it. If the PUD agreement isn't the mechanism, then what good is the PUD agreement?
All right, first of all, the developer is here, okay?
Great.
So there's a
I'm
little
glad.
lack of history. I don't think Dave, myself, or Megan were around. So if you want to hear from the developer what happened,
Absolutely.
13 years ago, you could call them up here and ask them. Do you want to do
Yeah.
that? Okay.
On your way up, though,
Yeah.
let me ask Trustee Nell, Matthew.
I was gonna ask, is it different builders, they said, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I think we're
let's
on our
have him
third round.
describe when he got involved and when.
Well, yeah, because that makes a big difference.
It could.
If it's against somebody else that no longer exists, that doesn't mean anything if it's somebody new. So I think we should hear from him and explain.
I'm okay with that. I'm more than happy to come back up and talk about where we're at right now. But if you need history,
I got history. Eric Knesny, Clearview Homes. So there's a lot of misinformation that just flew around the room. Most of what was just said is not even accurate, to be honest. And I said lots of stuff at the last time I was at this meeting, which has been a little while now, but what's going on here has forced me to become an expert. And honestly, Sam, a lot of the stuff you were talking about what's happened in departments and at the township and lawsuits, I mean, we've been on the brink for a long time. And we're trying to be the better person here and help clean up the mess and the sins of the past that we were not involved in. We were not the original developer. What the PRD actually says is that before any permits, not a single home in the entire development was supposed to be built. Not one, 0. So that's what the PRD actually says. So anybody sitting here talking about, oh, why are we doing something else? Why don't we just ram the PRD down Clearview's throat is absurd. That was all in the garbage when the planning commission, the board, the consultants, Carlisle Warman, everybody screwed the pooch years ago and allowed all this to happen. None of this should have ever been allowed because the well site was supposed to be found, verified, and dedicated before the first permit. That's what the PRD says. So we're way beyond that. There's hundreds of people living there. So all this clarification is to allow the sins of the past from everybody involved. Not even me. I wasn't involved. I wasn't the developer. But now it all falls on us. And we've been patient. This has been like dragging on for years now, and I'm at my wit's end. So we got to move forward. That's why we agreed to this clarification, and you call it whatever you want. It actually adds in tons of stuff that actually is not even in the PRD. It requires us to provide all kinds of things that 100% are not in the PRD. So the only ones making out in this is the township, not us. Not us. So for anybody to say, why don't we just follow the PRD? That is impossible. That's been impossible since the very first permit was issued. So that ship has sailed. So all this is doing is giving, the township should be ecstatic about this. It avoids another lawsuit for the township, and it gives the township, the DPW director, the engineering consultant, everything they've asked for. Dave, is there anything you asked for you did not get? Not a single thing. We came to every single demand of the township, every consultant, regardless if it was even in the PRD. So the only one that makes out in this deal is you guys. The consultants, the DPW, the board, everybody makes out except us. So we can have whatever discussions you guys want to talk. I'll answer any questions, anything you want to do. But you guys should be diving over the desk to sign that. That's what should be happening. Common sense should prevail here. Because lack of common sense means I'm next in line for the lawsuit because I can't do this anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Any questions from the board?
What phase did you start building in?
We started building in phase 1. We were not the developer. I knew nothing about the well site, the agreement with it, or that it was not done. We purchased developed lots that were done by Gus Zervos. He was supposed to dedicate the well site. In my research, I went through all this in the last meeting, and feel free to rewatch the tapes. I went through the whole dissertation of the past. The well site was found, it was tested, it was proven to be viable, according to, what was her name, Linda?
Richardson.
The previous, yes, thank you, the previous DPW director. The only thing that did not happen, everybody, I guess, just thought it was gonna happen and forgot about it. Nobody dedicated the well site. That one little thing never happened. Nobody physically described the legal parcel and then said, here it is, township and everybody's. That is the one thing that didn't happen. We had no knowledge of that.
When did you find out that you had to dedicate the well site? Because you've built hundreds of homes that's in there.
Yeah, we found out it right when we came in for phase 3. That's when we first found out about it, and we were in complete utter shock. We developed phase 2 and phase 2B. Not a word was brought up by anybody on the board, anybody on the planning commission, any of the consultants. Nobody brought up a single word about it. So we had no knowledge of it. We had no clue. And it wasn't supposed to be our responsibility, because if everybody had done their job before we ever bought a single lot, it would have been done. That's what the PRD said.
But a year ago, you knew about it when you submitted the plan with this.
So what would
this
you
thing.
suggest that we done, Sam? Please tell me.
Well, what you're doing now is you're saying that I need a month to tell you where it's at.
No,
I need a
I already
couple
know where
years.
it's at, Sam.
Okay, so what's the holdup of
Sam,
doing it? Why didn't you do it?
I'll do it right now. I'll dedicate the dirt. We asked if this wanted to be done. It's no problem. All those little extras you guys demanded, they're gone. That's no problem. If you just want me to dedicate the dirt, send me the legal description tomorrow morning. By noon, it'll be signed. You guys can have it. Have at it. Good luck.
Can I just real quick jump in there, sir?
I mean,
All right, thanks. Treasurer Brown.
And I appreciate you coming up, and
Yeah,
I know you're passionate about it. What I heard earlier, though, that I think everybody else heard it, was that our DPW and engineers are saying, hold on, because we're also getting utility easements. We can't really decide where they're gonna be until the section 4 is finished laying out. So we're really waiting on us too. Is that what I heard?
can I clarify? You want me to speak?
Well,
to that?
I want a consultant in our
Okay.
DPW, because I heard someone say that our DPW director and engineers are saying, hold on, we need to, and that makes me think, how could we ever get it done until we know the next
This
step?
is-
Let's get them up here.
So everything that was in the agreement that we went back and forth with them, they've complied with to dedicate a viable well site. So there's nothing that I'm concerned about as far as the viability of the parcel of property to possibly build a well site there. They've complied with everything that I've asked them to do, and some. Standards have changed over the years, and I have no issues with them. I'm satisfied with where we're at right now with it, and with the agreement that's in front of you tonight.
Is the well in a different location now than it's proposed on the plan that was submitted to the Planning Commission in January?
I have no idea what plan. If you want me to look at it, I could comment.
Yeah,
I'm more than
I
happy
just
to.
took it out of the Planning Commission package.
That's where the test well was at.
So that's a screenshot of the Planning Commission package that was in front of the Planning Commission in January of 2025, showing the viable well site was in Phase 3. I was at the meeting. We talked about that it crossed into lines of properties and boundaries. So that, so not knowing where access is and all that, if we're approving Phase 3 right now to be built, how do you not know all of this information?
Because that's not accurate. Phase 3, after that meeting, was revised related to this whole well thing. Phase 3 is already approved. We have almost all of our permits from the state right now. So Phase 3 is already approved.
The
So
well's not
again,
in Phase 3 at all.
it is not in Phase 3 at all. Not
even.
even, no, there is zero of the well site in Phase 3.
When did that get relocated?
After that meeting where this whole thing about the well site came up. We had to start from scratch because we had to redesign it. And the part that I think, and this I think relates to what you were asking, Paul, is part of all these, I'm calling them new requirements because they are not in the PRD. And like Dave said, we've complied. We said no problem, okay. But it's impossible to get what everybody is asking for unless the phases to get there are built. We cannot provide a sewer lead or storm access unless the phase before it is built. It's impossible. So if the board just wants us to dedicate the dirt, great, that's great for us. It saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars, no problem. Again, send me the legal description by 9 tomorrow. It'll be on whoever's desk by noon. It will be your dirt and you guys enjoy it. I'd love to do that. Sounds great.
All right, hang on a second. Dan, can I see you back up here, please, the podium? So clearly, this particular development has a very long and colorful history.
Right.
Tell me why this would potentially be a bad deal for the township.
I don't know. I don't see that it's a bad deal for the township. It's up to the board to agree. I think there's a sense, at least.
A risk, maybe I'll just put it that way, in terms of a risk. What's the risk to the township then?
I don't see the risk. We, as indicated by the developer, we can demand the well site parcel legal description. What we really need in addition to that is in this agreement, right? It's the location of these access easements, of the utility access, that he's accurate, my understanding from both the engineers and everyone else, he's not in a position to give that to us until he's at Phase 4. Those are the benefits that we get that were not necessarily accounted for in that PUD whenever it was 20 years ago. We've dealt multiple times, going back to the master deed interpretation, to the road maintenance issues, with a bad agreement. So let's start there. We've been trying to clean that up. Now we're at a sequencing issue that doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's what we came to the conclusion of. And so we put in some protections to make sure that we could get it done without a risk, an additional risk to the township. That's where I'm at.
One more question, and I'll turn it over. Dr. McKee, is this wellhead needed today?
The growth of the township, it's definitely going to be needed at some time.
I asked today. Is it needed today?
Right now?
Yeah.
Today?
Because I do understand,
No.
right, they have potentially up to 2 years to do this.
Yes.
Okay,
We
so-
don't need it today, but the way
Just clear, this well site is not just at this site.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't.
true,
because-
yeah, this-
I didn't know that, but I mean,
yeah, this would be a part of our community well system.
yes, I do understand that.
Okay.
But I'm asking is that a need that is today? Or is it one that with the understanding of the direction that things are going, we're gonna need here definitely within the next, is that how you came up with the 2 years? As a time frame?
Yes. So we would, yeah, we came up with the timeframe for the 2 years. We don't need it, right, it's not an immediate need right now, okay? We will need it for future expansions. The way Eagle requirements that have changed over the years, as he's well aware of, I kind of give it to him on that, on the new requirements, is that it's gonna be very hard to find viable spots for wells, for new wells, for community wells, because of the setbacks and everything that's changed over the years. This secures a site for future developments. It keeps going in the township that we can build something new there. And we do need water on that side of the township. Master plan's gonna call, that's where the area of the township in the water and sewer district that's still expanding. So to answer your question, do we need it today? No. Are we gonna need it in 2 years? More than likely. More than likely, and some more, and some other places too.
Trustee Hayward?
So I have a couple of questions, and hopefully that Sam can answer them, and Megan, and whoever else, because it seems odd to me that somebody would take over an old PRD, not understand what the qualifications or the requirements rather of it are. If they didn't like them, why didn't they, were they able to come back and renegotiate the PRD because they're a new development, a new developer that took it over? I don't understand. Oh, I'm speaking to Megan or somebody else. So in that situation to where it seems odd that, you know, we're up to phase 3 and then, you know, the developer decided that they now looking at the, you know, permits are not being issued. And I don't understand why this is before us and not before the planning commission to begin with at this point, or has this already been to the planning commission? I don't think that it has, but.
Okay. I think.
So, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Can I unpack what I think were 3 questions?
Yes.
Is the first question was, how does someone purchase phases of a development and not necessarily know what's in the PRD agreement? And that could be very well related to title work or how the transaction happened between the purchaser and the purchasee. And some of these things, and you would have to ask, you know, Mr. Konechny, the minutiae of that. So it is possible, 1. 2, the development agreement's been amended several times over the years. And also in response, and particularly I think in response to when phases 2 through 5 were sold officially, and then they rejuggled some units. In terms of why it hasn't been amended, I would, while you're coming here for a modification instead of an amendment, and the modification is, think of it as changing something in a contract, whereas if you were amending, you have to go through the whole PUD process with the public hearings at the planning commission level and here, and I think you have to go back and forth twice. So that's a lot longer process, that it's just a longer process. And then I would defer to Mr. Kelly as to why there was a modification rather than an amendment in this particular case.
And then, and I don't know if that, I understand that makes sense to me to an extent why we are, but it seems like what we're doing is finding a way around to go to the planning commission to get this thing straightened out, and that's fine, I suppose. The other question is then how do we get that far from, and I'm just looking at it as where the failures were all the way down the line, whether it be with, and I know we've had, he's been working on this a long time, we've had a lot of changeover within the township with employees, to how somebody issues permits without looking back at a PRD. You know what I mean? How did we get to this
Right.
point?
So-
And how was it I mean, how did we let the developer, and maybe he didn't, you know, whatever, for whatever reason, he didn't know, but we kept issuing permits and nobody bothered to look at the original PRD or PUD or whatever this is, the PRD.
You know, actually, I'm
So-
going to interject here.
Yeah.
I don't think this is necessarily a case study on how we got to where we're at. I think
Right.
it's definitely worthwhile and warranted to take a look and figure out how we got here, so we don't make that mistake again.
Yes.
But I'm not sure that really directly applies
Right.
to this motion.
Well, the reason I bring it all up is because this is a problem that this isn't a one-time problem that I see. So that's all, why I bring this up.
And that's
Because
why I say it's
I'm
probably worth
I'm
looking at.
hesitant to approve this, to move forward, because when do we stop doing this, is my question, is when do we stop doing this? That's all.
Mr. Supervisor, can I just add
That's the
one
only
thing?
reason I ask those questions. Yeah.
So this was first approved in 1991, it was amended in 94, I believe it's been amended again. The PUD, and this is a PRD,
Yes.
Planned Residential Development, it requires 160 acres as its minimum size. So, and there's only two, this and Oakhurst. So this particular animal probably won't come before you again. We're starting a process to look at amending the PUDs and PRDs. I think this has a lot of lessons learned, and I think also there had been amendments since that time due to lessons learned, particularly from this in terms of phasing and only having one owner or developer, that the ordinance has been amended since then in order to deal with some of those
Okay.
problems.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I would.
Trustee now, Matthew?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right.
Sorry.
I was just gonna make a comment to your point. It's not often that you get someone who leaves in the middle and somebody comes in and halfway through what they're doing gets shafted, is how I look at it. As far, this was approved for
Right,
a
right.
different builder.
Oh, I understand that
And he came in to
completely.
clean that up.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm just looking that, the odds of all this happening again, I understand your point, but this is a unique circumstance in my mind.
No, and I have confidence in both the Daves and Dan and their opinions, so.
Can I make one comment just on your first question?
Yeah.
Because, again, we were not the developer.
I'm sorry, I
And the-
can't answer that. You can let him,
sorry.
I can't give you authority to speak on that, to Chair Kent, so. sorry.
So
Go
we
ahead.
were, I just want to clarify, we
Yeah.
were not the developer in the first
Yeah.
phase, right? So we bought developed lots. So our assumption was, and I guess shame on us, that all of the requirements were followed and enforced by the township. Now, years later, after we spent millions of dollars and now have been delayed for years, we found out it was never done. So we didn't buy the property not knowing what the PRD required. What we did not know is that the township allowed the original developer to not do his job. That's the part we didn't know. I guess shame on us, but I look back at the township and say, how was it allowed,
Yeah.
right? That wasn't my fault.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Trustee Tedder?
Thank you. First, I do appreciate that the developer is here. That was lacking last month, and our consultant's here as well. So I feel a lot more informed than I was last month. Director Moran did a great job, but again, in the absence of a first-person point of view, it makes it hard to unpack this because it is a convoluted mess, all that being said. Couple questions for Mr. Kelly. I'm hearing, and I know words matter in the legal world, clarification versus modification. Both are being tossed around really loosely. Could you start with that?
Well, it's really clarification versus amendment, right? And Megan has gone through the entire amendment process. In this circumstance, we are not asking you to amend the underlying agreement. We're asking for a clarification. And the reason it was drafted that way is, one, to avoid the process of all starting over, because as I understand it, the concerns of the DPW and the engineer to obtain these assurances that go with, it's not just the dedication of the parcel, it's the assurances that we want, the township wants. So we looked at that and said, okay, everything else is going to stay in place. We want a clarification as to when that dedication is going to occur. We've come up with an agreement that affects a very minute, specific issue within the underlying agreements, which we think needs to be fixed because the sequency does not work, and that's why it's in front of you. So we called it a clarification. There's no need to go back, in our opinion, you can disagree, There's no need to go back and review the entire PUD and go through that process. That's our opinion. And we're satisfied that the clarification is legal and can be upheld. We're talking about, I should point out, permit conditions to the PRD, which you can argue are different than the actual PRD.
So it's not a modification.
I don't know. I'm used to either an amendment of the underlying agreement. This case, we called it a clarification. I don't see much of a difference between clarification and modification.
So there are assurances that's been established.
Yes.
And I wish our developer great success and completes all 4 phases and beyond. But hypothetically, they go, they file for bankruptcy, they finish phase 3, cut bait, go into bankruptcy, open up under a new name, new corporate enterprise, and start business. And is said assurance off? Is it gone? And this say goes to the bank, and we never get to phase 4. Is that a roll of the dice? In practical terms, what happens to our rights to that well site?
I'll answer that. It's a greater roll of the dice in the position that we sit right now.
Okay.
So this agreement actually gives us greater assurances to make sure that we do get that dedicated well site, all right? Now, can a developer go bankrupt and walk away from it? Always, right? And in this circumstance, if it did go bankrupt, we can enforce this agreement as to the land and the dedication that we're entitled to. We probably have already been entitled to it. I believe the developer is correct that this probably should have happened 20 years ago, but this clarification makes it absolutely clear that even if this entity goes into bankruptcy, if we may have to go into the bankruptcy court, but we will get the relief of the dedicated site.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That's helpful. And this may be more of a comment, but again, I was frustrated last meeting, and again, there's no PRD for us to have been able to reference in advance of this meeting. Again, I think that matters, and I'm of the opinion that the board should at least have a copy of the PRD compared to what's on the table, and then make a decision at the next board meeting. That's my opinion. I think 2 weeks at this time is going to make or break anybody. I appreciate a lot of the commentary given by our directors, and I won't try to pronounce your last name, I apologize, but our developer, our consultants, so that's kind of where I stand. Would like to set my eyes on that. Again, addendums and resources are really important pieces to how we make our decisions. That's how I look at it.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment. I think that this showed an example, back to the other point we were making earlier tonight, that it's important that we have one point of contact to hold responsible for our packets, for our things, for this information. Now, it's your responsibility, Mr. Zubair, to pick who that is, but I don't think it's working having everybody dabbling in planning and zoning. So either Megan or Brittany or Brian or somebody needs
This
to
is
be
not- I hear you.
held
That's not
responsible.
related to
No,
this
but it
motion.
is a reason why we're having a little bit of not having our packet, because it's 2 meetings in a row, we don't have the information that we requested.
We have a motion. Can I get somebody willing to make the motion on this?
I'll move to approve the Morgan Lake Planned Residential Development Permit Conditions Clarification Agreement, Phases 2 through 5, with Clearview Homes LLC, and authorize the Township Supervisor and Township Clerk to execute the same.
Second. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Treasurer Brown.
Yes.
Trustee Hayward.
Yes.
Trustee Morocco.
No.
Trustee Nalamathu.
Yes.
Trustee Tedder.
No.
Supervisor File.
Yes.
And Clerk Newbeck, yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda. This one is being brought forth by our Enterprise System Administrator, Brian Ottman. What we're looking at here is to go through and replace, we're asking for a budget amendment and replacing the on-base system that we currently have.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We have, as a major system in our township, software called OnBase. It's a document management system. That's where basically all of our documents are scanned and stored. At the time, had a lot of advantages. And as time has gone on, the reliance on the server that it's stored on has crashed several times. We're starting to have real problems with it. It's running out of storage. And it just has a lack of integration with other software that we use here, whether it's BSNA, our GIS system, and CityWorks. So, and it's causing a lot of delays. So, for departments that rely on this heavily. When we bought this in 2017, we spent almost $100,000 on it to get this thing up and running. And now the costs per year are over $20,000. And what this software is it's an on-premise software. So we have a server in our server room and everybody has the program on their computer. But what we want to do is part of our process of getting things out of the building, for protection of our data, is we're trying to go cloud-based. So what we're proposing, and I just want to mention too, OnBase is the cost per year for licensing and maintenance is going up and up and up, 7% per year. And right now it's over $20,000. So we've evaluated several different systems, and we are proposing to move to Laserfiche for the document management system. So there's a lot of advantages to Laserfiche. It's not what you think of as going to the library and looking at scans and things like that. In the old days, this is really a cloud-based system, and they have a different way of doing things. They use AI. They have a lot of automation that will make our processes quicker here. So, especially in the building department where they're using it every day. So, the other advantage is this has integration with our core systems, BSNA, our GIS system, CityWorks, or any other system that DPW is working with. Not to mention the cost advantages. This software will basically cost $15,000 annually instead of what we're paying now, which is about $20,000 to $25,000. So, so really, it's we're proposing a budget amendment tonight, and that's really just for implementation. We have already budgeted for OnBase, so this falls within that. But really, the budget amendment tonight that we're asking for is just to cover implementation of this, and they will take all of our data and put it right into their system. So that is part of the integration. The other advantage I didn't mention is that this is scalable. So as I mentioned, we're running out of hard drive space. That we're asking for 2.5 terabytes, which is a lot. But we have almost that much data, and if we need more data, we just order more, and it's like that. They just flip a switch, and we get 3 gigs. So, and it's a scalable model. So, this seems to be the best software that we've been able to take a look at, and we're asking for the amendment.
Okay. I'm going to go to the audience first. Anybody in the audience have any questions? Comments, I should say. Anybody online have any comments? Okay, I'll bring it back up to the board. Treasurer Newbeck, Clerk Newbeck. Always.
Will the implementation and the ongoing annual cost that you mentioned, does that support, I know you and I have talked about this, will that support the
retention?
Yeah, our
Yes.
retention schedule?
Absolutely.
They will absorb our current retention schedule and follow it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so will they incorporate that, or are you and your staff having to incorporate that?
No, we will rely on them to at least set it up. So,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Any other questions from the board? No. Okay, it should also be noted, I think that was in the packet, that when we come across something like this, especially on the software side of things, because some of these can be a little pricey, that we do ask the directors for each department that's going to be impacted by the software to sign off and acknowledge and say, yes, we want to have it. And I believe we got everybody on that form, right?
Yeah,
Sign up? Okay.
everybody who's using the system now signed off on it. So.
Okay. So it's not just you and I sitting back, it's a collective effort?
Yeah, correct. And just to mention too, that the Kelly firm reviewed the contract, found no issues with it, and we're ready to proceed.
Okay. If there's no other comments, can I get a motion then, please?
I'll move to accept proposal dated April 16th, 2026 from RST Solutions from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for the software and services for the implementation of Laserfiche. Direct the supervisor to sign the contract as authorized representative of the township.
I'm also going to note that we don't actually need motion B because it's embedded in motion A, just FYI. So make sure you understand that part.
No, I'm sorry, I disagree.
You're the one who told me.
That was on the one you pulled.
I'll second.
Okay, never mind. Okay, second. All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Hayward,
Yes.
trustee Morocco,
No.
trustee Nalamathu,
Yes.
trustee Tedder,
Yes.
supervisor File,
Yes.
clerk Newbeck, yes, treasurer Brown.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, then we have a motion B to approve the budget amendment at number 13 as presented. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Roll call again, please, Madam Clerk.
Simple majority.
Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. Number 5, the Clintonwood Park, thank you. This one here is a request to accept the proposal for the Clintonwood Park restroom restoration, a request to approve the PRS budget amendment number 14. I do have a little bit of an opening statement since you and I have been kind of working on this together a little bit, along with some other members up here. I want to frame that project is really about, it's not about a bathroom project. This is an asset stewardship project. Clintonwood Park is one of the township's most heavily utilized public facility. The township of thousands of residents, families, athletes, coaches, and visitors use this park every year. The conditions of our facilities reflect directly on the township and the pride we take in our community. Our responsibility is not simply to keep facilities function. Our responsibility is to maintain township assets, protect taxpayers' investments, and ensure residents have a facility that are safe, clean, durable, and worthy of the community service. At that point, I will turn it over to the director of the PRS, Ms. Christensen.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Just to reiterate what Supervisor File just said, after recent review and evaluation of some township facilities and assets, the restrooms at Clintonwood Park were identified as a need to be renovated and remodeled. As you know, and just stated, Clintonwood Park is our highest used facility in our park system with thousands of visitors annually. So the proposal of the project will include the renovation of 2 sets of restrooms, each containing a men's and a women's facility. So 4 total individual restrooms. And improvements will address aging fixtures, finishes, building components, and of course with our goal of enhancing the overall experience for the users within the park. We posted the proposal on the township website, and on BidNet, 5 proposals were received. So tonight I'm asking for the acceptance of my recommendation to award the proposal to Blackout Construction in the total amount of $110,000 with a contingency of $33,000. That's a 30% contingency. We're looking, it's going to be a full gut, so we're just not sure what we're going to find possibly behind the walls or within some further removal of the current product that's in the restrooms. So this will involve a budget amendment, as this was not a 2026 budgeted project.
Okay, any questions or comments from the audience? Comments? Nope, bring it up to the board. Trustee Morocco.
Great, I'm super excited, well overdue. We've needed to invest in that park for a long time. I think it's a good thing. I did have a question about who's going to be, 30% contingency is a huge number for a company that should know exactly what's involved in a cinder block building. There should be no surprises if you're a qualified company, so do we have, is the facilities maintenance department going to be monitoring the construction to verify that that's happening?
Yes, that is correct. Yep, I'll work directly with facilities maintenance to oversee the project and make sure it was more or less, they're original to the building. We've done, I think 2016 was the last time any kind of renovation was done in there, and that was just very light. So we're just not sure what.
Right.
What
No,
could be
I know, I'm
behind the
always
wall, so.
concerned about contingencies because I don't live in that world where you get to go back and ask for more money because you didn't do your due diligence when you bid it. So I'm always a little, thing. So I'm glad that we got it, and I'm glad it's happening, and I'm excited to see those new facilities come to light. Do we have a date that we're trying to complete them by?
So I believe blackout construction, if the proposal is accepted tonight, can begin the work the week of June 15th. So we're going to work with them directly to try to get a restroom completed before Independence Fest, but definitely will happen within the next 30 days.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just as a note, I put in the contingency that the developer didn't, because I've done enough stuff, and as you know, especially you, with the age of building stuff you do, you pull out something, you lift up something, and you're like, holy crap, there's a whole bunch of problems there. So that's kind of more what it is for, but the director of DPW, who's the facility manager from Rochester, our new one, they will be overseeing it along with some of the new things I'm going to be bringing to the next board meeting about a rework on some of that stuff.
Okay.
So, yes. So it was not them, so don't put that on them.
No, I just,
Okay,
I always
yeah.
have that concern because it
Yeah.
seems like a free little bonus,
Right.
when
You
throw
always
it
can
in
fill the
there.
glass if you need to, right? Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm really, and again, I talked to Supervisor Frye a little bit ago, and no, this is a long overdue, worthwhile investment. Some might call it our crown jewel, but it doesn't, the condition of the park doesn't reflect that. But as the most used park in our system, I think this is great. Perhaps more to come in support of other projects. But, and frankly, whether you go to a restaurant, you go to a gas station, you go to a park, restrooms are reflective, I think, of the condition and the quality of all that's represented. So I'm really excited for this.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No? Can I get a motion then, please?
I'll move to accept the proposal from Blackout Construction, Mount Clemens, Michigan, in the amount of $110,000 for the Clintonwood Park renovation project, plus a project contingency of 30%, equaling $33,000 for unseen conditions, for a total authorized project budget not to exceed $143,000, and authorize the township supervisor to sign the proposal.
Support.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'd like to move to approve PRS CIP budget amendment number 14 is presented also.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a request to approve the 2006 budget amendment number 12 for additional money for gravel roads. This roads have been, I'll say it this way, kind of the bane of my existence since I've been here. Unfortunately, I took office and we had all the 75 closed down and everything else. As I looked at this and started thinking about it, I really started taking a look at it from the standpoint of a resident. I think that, before we get too far into paying the roads and all that, we think we should remember who we represent. The residents driving these roads do not care whether the funding comes from the road commissioner or township. They care whether the roads are safe, passable, and maintained and aren't causing them any liabilities to their vehicles. The reality is that these roads have been identified as needing attention and are not currently scheduled for improvement under the existing priorities. Tonight, we have a choice. We can explain why another level of government should have solved the problem, or we can help solve the problems ourselves. I believe the residents elected us to solve the problems and not assign blame. The roads that were identified here were identified by our representative for the RCOC. I just gave him the direction of saying, we have roughly 200,000 from, which is about half the interest we earned on account, so it's kind of, I don't want to say free money, because we earned it on the interest, but it's on money that we're sitting on. And I said, give me, what can I get for that? And he said, 6 miles. I said, go give me the 6 miles that are not on your schedule, but where we can get the biggest bang for the buck. They did come back with this. I will also advocate for the fact that Trustee Morocco had nothing to do with this or say anything about it, even though his house happens to be on or by one of the roads, Pine Knot Road. So he did not have any input or anything else on the roads themselves. Just want to make sure that point is clear. So we're looking at really going through an amended 200,000 to just help out our residents, and I believe that that's what we're here for. Any questions or comments from the audience? Again, comments, not questions. No? Online? Nope? Okay, I'll bring it up to the board. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay.
I didn't want to disappoint you, somebody should say something.
Okay.
No, I just want to say that as looking at the roads and all the stuff with the flooding, and we have to understand too, and I was standing out for 2 hours watching people drive down the road and down this one particular road that is, it looks like a war zone, but to watch people go through there was an emergency, and I had to watch the emergency vehicles go through at a very slow pace. I mean, it's either that or, jar yourself off the road. So I look at it not only to take care of the residents in the aspect of their own personal vehicles, but also our town, what the services we provide for our safety and security, and having fire department get there, having police get there in a timely manner without having to worry about them being in an accident themselves. So that's all.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea.
Terry.
Oh, didn't see it, Terry.
It's okay. I'm just gonna say it's something we've done in the past, that we've approved extra money. I'm happy to do it for the residents because like you said, I've seen some of these. I am unhappy that it keeps getting to this point though, and that the county can't take care of it at the appropriate level that I feel it should be. But I'm all for it because, I mean, people have to drive to get out of there.
Okay. Trustee Morocco.
When the original part they were gonna do, Stickney was one of those, which I also live on the corner of, and I was opposed to that.
Okay.
I have mixed feelings about it. I'm not, so living on a dirt road, there's a couple of things that could happen. If they gravel the road, and they do it now, and the calcium chloride doesn't bind, you can have a whole entire summer where you can't be outside, because the dust is gonna be so bad you won't be, from the road. So there's negative effects to adding 2 inches of gravel to a gravel road to the quality of life of the people that live on a dirt road if it doesn't get compacted right. It could really ruin your whole summer. So I'm kind of torn between it, I think a hard packed road graded is better than a loose gravel road put down, but I'm gonna support this. But you are rolling the dice on how it works for you living on that dirt road, when you do it. So we'll hope for the best that they get them calcium chlorided immediately as it's going down, and it binds, and we don't have a negative impact from that loose gravel. That's my only concern.
So we did approve the calcium chloride.
Right.
So I can definitely go back when I talk to RCOC, tell them that we expect the gravel to be laid down, and then the calcium chloride very shortly
Immediately
after.
following, yeah, because that can really destroy a lot
I
of
used to
things.
live on a road, so I get what you mean. You can't even have your windows open.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Nope. All right, can I get a motion, please?
I move to approve the purchase order and 2026 budget amendment number 12 in the amount of $200,000 for the 2026 gravel road re-graveling program in coordination with the Road Commission for Oakland County, and authorize the supervisor or his designee to execute all necessary documents related to the project.
Second.
Okay, can I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Morocco?
Yes.
Trustee Nalmathu?
Yes.
Trustee Tedder?
Yes.
Supervisor File?
Yes.
Clerk Newbeck, yes. Treasurer Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Hayward?
Yes.
Motion carried.
This is the one, actually, we didn't need to do B because it was embedded in A, so there won't be a motion necessary there. Excellent. I'm sure we'll have many residents that will be happy. All right, next item on regular business, L7, is which is being brought forward by Treasurer Brown for a request to adopt resolution number 2026-013, policy regarding the timely receipt of property tax payments for postmark and authorized electronic payments, and to approve the policy which supersedes and replaces current policy.
Thank you. So this one I think is pretty easy. One of the toughest conversations I have with residents is when they've mailed their check 7 days ahead of time and it gets there the day after it's due, and we're talking about tax payments, and there's a pretty substantial penalty for that, and especially if it happens in February, and that I have to follow the township's policies as set by the board. And now, I've always been able to say, look, I treat everyone the same. I don't waive penalties. I'm not allowed to. But what I've had conversations this year was, but I can go back to the board and say, let's accept postmarks. I've done this before. So we had a accept postmarks policy back in, I want to say 13 or 14, and we did that for about 7 years. In 2021, a different treasurer asked to change that policy, and so it was reversed. There's not a lot of work for us. This is fairly easy for us to handle. We have the lockbox at the bank, and all the payments that get there, we get copies of the envelopes. Every check is in a giant PDF with a copy of the envelope. So it's pretty easy to go through and look for any that do not qualify with a postmark. In fact, the ones that come in the day after the due date, I already know were postmarked on time because they couldn't get to the bank in less than 24 hours. So again, I've done this with my staff before. It's there's some work for us on it, but it's certainly worth it to make sure residents who made their best effort, again, 7 or 8 days early, and for whatever reason, the post office, they deliver millions and millions of pieces of mail. Some of them will be delayed. And we'd like to be able to solve that problem for them, and I'd appreciate it if the board would support this. By the way, Lansing has already got new laws in process right now, or pending, that will require this of townships, so we're just going to be ahead of the game.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Any comments online? All right, I'll bring up to the board. Any comments or questions from the board? Trustee Tedder?
Question, no, I think in 99% of the cases it's reasonable, but just curious, say 60 days goes by and, I don't know, is there a way to manipulate the system?
It's capped.
It's capped, okay.
It's capped
I
in
must
here.
be
So
understand.
for if you read the policy itself, and it's
October
got
20.
a lot of details, and in fact, it changed so much, we're actually rescinding, we're not amending. We're rescinding the prior policy and amending the new one, which is much more up to date. But basically, it's got to be postmarked by, for example, September 14th, and we have to receive it by the 28th, which is 2 weeks, but really it's 10 business days. Okay? And it's before we get to the end of the month when there's going to be another penalty added.
Right.
And then in February, it has to be received before it goes delinquent to the county, which is close to that. It's the 28th again, February 28th. So this is going to benefit, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 residents, and I think it's worth doing it. A little bit of extra work for us, but we can handle it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Nope. All right, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-013, policy regarding timely receipt of property tax payments by postmark and authorized electronic payment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's a roll call.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
yep. Roll call for the first one.
Trustee Alamothu?
Yes.
Trustee Tedder?
Yes.
Supervisor File?
Yes.
Clerk Newbeck, yes. Treasurer Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Hayward?
Yes.
Trustee Morocco?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the policy regarding timely receipt of property tax payments by postmark and authorized electronic payment, which supersedes and replaces the township's 2021 tax payment policy in its entirety.
Second.
All those in favor?
It's roll call.
Aye.
Excuse me.
I thought it's a simple majority.
No, that one's roll call.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Tedder?
Yes.
Supervisor File?
Yes.
Clerk Newbeck, yes. Treasurer Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Hayward?
Yes.
Trustee Morocco?
Yes.
Trustee Alamothu?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. L8, and this is a request to approve the removal of all township advertising on the Pine Knob Digital Message Board. This is being brought forward by trustee Morocco. Would you like to go through this? Present it?
Yeah.
Okay.
As we know, we had, lawsuit against them on whether or not they could have it. They won the lawsuit, that's fine. Our ordinance still prevail because the township, in my opinion, didn't get a variance. I'd like to, before I make too many comments, I'd kind of like some background on how it got there, who knew about it, how it got approved, what's the process of the stuff that's being sent to them, is there a cost involved, how did this all happen? And then maybe that'll give some clarity, and then I can make my comments on what my thoughts are on it.
Okay, well, that's kind of outside of the MAFE, but I will be more than happy to answer your questions for you. It came about because, as the board knows, that Pine Knob 313 offered to put public notices on the digital board. That was one of their original offers, continued, and always had been there. When we lost the lawsuit, and it was about ready to go live, I said, hey, let's see if we can't get something for it. And I believe I worked with one of the directors on the media and all that. That director came up with all the material. I sent it over to 313 and said, here's the things that we're looking from a public announcement, and they put it on there. So it was free.
Okay. Thank you for that
Yep.
explanation of how it got there. So I've got a couple of issues with it, of its, regarding whether it be ethics or the ordinance or the whether it's inappropriate. I think that as a person who obviously is passionate about the sign ordinance, worked on the sign ordinance, and was very disappointed that we allowed them to violate our, have a digital billboard, that I think it makes us the second largest violator of the township sign ordinance. I don't agree that it's appropriate for us to take advantage of that. When they came to the zoning board, the discussion was that they could put up boil water, things, and try to spruce it up a little by saying somehow it was a community benefit to us if we had some emergency or whatnot. But I was just flabbergasted that that it was even considered. The appearance of impropriety, the fact that it goes against everything that we've been working for, for 20 years. The other business owners that don't get to enjoy it. I mean, I think it's completely inappropriate, regardless of whether it's free or not. They're a business that we're going to be monitoring. I think it could be looked at as favoritism, or working with them when all the other businesses in town are being denied that same thing. I think that we should follow by example, not do as I say, not as I do, which is what I think this is what this is promoting, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it with that for right now.
Okay. Does anybody in the audience have any comments? No? Anybody online? No? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Anybody at the board? Clerk Newbeck.
We got it right.
I got it
Wow.
right.
Sam, I will say, though, made me think of something when you mentioned that. When the board approved Alex's sign, it was agreed that they could post, or we could post things of the township on that as well. So I don't think that I don't believe that we have, but there was discussion. I don't know if it's written in an agreement, so I don't think that this is out of the ordinary, because that was another digital sign, whether we put, supervisor, whoever took the opportunity to approach Alex and put anything up there, but.
Can I explain what I think the difference is between the two?
Well, it's obvious what the differences are, but it's an electronic sign, and we can advertise on Alex's, I believe.
Well, Alex's is a little bit different animal, because they were approved an LED sign the same night that the moratorium was put on the township, that no one else could have LED signs, so it's kind of a little bit of an odd thing. But they also again, we're softening up the impact with emergency notifications, not promoting events and not in color. It would have been black background, white letters, and it would have been in compliance in the ordinance, but they would have allowed us access to it. My issue is that they're not, what we're doing is not in compliance with the ordinance. Now, just because Pine Knob got a variance doesn't mean that we got a variance. And for us to set the example that we're violating our own ordinances, I think sends the wrong message. And I just want to go perfectly on the record that I think that it's completely inappropriate for us to, and it's going to open us up for litigation, certainly, that we're violating the ordinance and no one else in the township can. I think it sends the wrong message to our business owners and to the residents who have worked so hard to clearly make us different. I mean, now that we've got it, other than Pine Knob, get that out of the picture, but when you leave Waterford and you come into Clark, Independence Township on Dixie Highway, you can notice a noticeable difference in dark sky. And, this is opening us up to that we're not serious about it, that we're lenient about it, that it's okay for us to do it, but no one else can do it. And I think that that's going to make it way harder to enforce and to hold that line, because I think now that we've done it, you can actually see the benefits of what we were trying to do in parts of the township, because we're different than the other communities and what they're doing. And the fact that Pine Knob can do it, we have to kind of live with it for right now. We don't know if it's forever, but I don't think that we should participate in promoting something that we strongly are against, and we all unanimously voted to sue to try to stop it. Now we're doing it, but no one else can. I think that's the biggest issue I have with it is that perception that we don't follow our own rules.
Does anybody else have? Trustee Hayward?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the line of it's an integrity issue for me, considering that, we were unanimously sued, we unanimously, every decision along the way to stop what we could do to do that, and now that it's been approved, which is fine, but for us to now all of a sudden, I guess we're okay with it, so we'll put our advertisement up there. I wish that at least we would have a policy for it. I wish it could have come to the board, so at least it didn't look like the entire board was okay with that kind of advertisement, because I'm certainly not. I just think we need to stay away from it, because it doesn't reflect, if it reflects the board's view as a vote, at least we get a vote out there to say, some of them are for it, some of them are against it. But I don't want the message to be to the township, well, the board spent all this money fighting it, and so, well, it went through, well, we're just going to jump on board with it now. And that's how I view it.
Trustee Tutter? You want to go?
Sure, I'll I see you've asked for our legal firm to be here, but I don't see a legal review. You've indicated we're at risk of being sued, and I guess I'd like to find out from our attorney what our risks are of being sued, and you mentioned a couple different things related to this, and I guess that's concerning, so I want to hear.
So, all right, sure. So the short answer is a legal variance was granted and it was upheld by the court. And so the sign, as long as they stay within the ZBA's motion, is legal. So now that.
But I think what I understood him to say was, if we put Welcome to Independence Township on it, we're at risk of getting sued by somebody else. So I just want to understand.
I thought that, well, I don't know, you have to ask Sam. I interpret it, maybe it could be that, but it could be used against us, as I think is what Sam is saying, if we try to restrict other signs under our ordinance, if we're currently violating it. So, and I don't, it's an interpretation question, because unfortunately we have a very confusing ZBA motion. But a variance has been granted. If the interpretation of this board is that the activities that are going on out there fall within that ZBA motion, then we're not violating the ordinance. And as far as the chance of being sued, I suppose some other entity could use this as a basis to say, hey, township, you're allowing yourselves to do this, why can't I do it at some other digital sign? Yeah, they could make that argument, I guess.
Clerk Newbeck?
So now that you say that, let's say they become in violation and we are advertising, well, they're in violation. Are we in violation of our own ordinance then?
No. The only person that's in violation of the ordinance is the person that is advertising or
But they're advertising for
operating.
us.
Yeah, but that's fine. You're not going to be in violation. If you ask them to put something up on their sign, whether you pay for it or not, doesn't matter, and they put it up, they're the ones that are going to be responsible for whether or not it violates an ordinance. Our power goes to the property owner. Our authority, I should say.
But the optics aren't great.
So here's the.
That's a policy.
So here's another thing that I think that it gets muddy, and I think it needs to be clarified, is that this lawsuit was not against Pine Knob. It was not against the sign. It was against the ZBA. It could have been Joe Blow's mechanic shop that the ZBA gave that variance to. It does not matter the entity behind it. It was our right. I voted to pursue this lawsuit simply because I wanted to know, do we have a mechanism to be able to go through and look when our quasi-judicial board, the ZBA, I believe makes a mistake, or the board believes it made a mistake, do we have a method to rectify or change that? That's what that whole lawsuit from my standpoint was. I never once cared about if it was Pine Knob or not. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's clear too. The lawsuit was not ever against Pine Knob. I know it gets stated that way, and somebody stated that on the news, and that was not correct. It was against the ZBA, first and foremost. The second thing is that, I'm just going to read this because it addresses most of the stuff. I cannot support a motion that would prohibit the township from utilizing available communication tools to inform residents about township programs, public meetings, elections, road projects, community events, recreation opportunities, public health information, and other matters of legitimate public interest. The question before us is not whether Independence Township should advertise. The question is whether Independence Township should communicate with its residents. The materials provided in support of this motion cite the signed ordinance stated purpose of promoting public safety, protecting quality of life, preserving community character, and supporting economic development and property values. Those same purposes are furthered when residents are informed about township service, public meetings, infrastructure projects, safety initiatives, and community events. Nothing in the ordinance language provides limited communication solely to emergency notifications. In fact, the ordinance expressly recognizes broad governmental interests, including public safety, character and quality of life, and economic development. Those are all in the area of which residents' communication is appropriate and beneficial. I'm also concerned about, I'm going to skip the blanket legal thing because we just heard that. The township already communicates through its website, social media, newsletters, press releases, cable channels, public meetings, and other official channels. The digital message board is simply another communication platform. Restricting one platform does not change the township's responsibility to communicate with its residents. It merely reduces our ability to reach them effectively. Most importantly, the ordinance regulates signs. It does not prohibit the township from communicating with its residents. The content displayed on the Pine Knob board consists of government information serving a public purpose. This is a fundamental difference between commercial advertising. Government communication and commercial advertising are not the same thing. If the board wishes to establish content guidelines for the township communication, that is a discussion we can have. However, limiting township communication exclusively to emergency announcements would unnecessarily restrict our ability to inform residents about services they find and the programs they rely upon. And, for that reason, I can't support it, but I absolutely can support putting together a policy for guidelines. That's all I have to say on the subject. Trustee Tedder, I think you're number.
Thank you. Don't have any prepared remarks, but do have some thoughts on this. I guess going back to Clerk Newbeck's question, the owner of the sign would be in violation. Well, who enforces the violation? That's the township. So I think there's some valid points here in that we are creating a double standard by advertising and promoting. And I don't know that it makes it any better that, well, we're the benevolent government, that we're different. We're not making a profit or this or that or the other thing. We would have to hold them in violation of posting our sign. I have no problem with the sign saying, "Welcome to Independence Township" in generic script, but they're using our image, our likeness, all things that are branded to us. And it does look like, and I quietly thought about this, I didn't write a MAF for it, but I agree, it quietly looks like a de facto endorsement of a business. There's also content that is not necessarily harmonious. I don't need to get into details. That is not harmonious with us as a community. And so while I appreciate the gesture that was part of proposed negotiations way back when, I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the township if we bow out of, I'm not saying we had to pass a prohibition, that we bow out of participating in quote-unquote promotions, information, anything related to that sign. And I'll also say, and this, and I'll leave it to the judgment of the board, but there is frankly probably an argument too that there is advertising that goes against our ordinance, is a separate matter. But I don't find it proper and appropriate for those reasons to continue to place our image and our branding on that sign.
Okay.
Well, depending on how the board votes, I'm exactly kind of the opposite, like to say welcome to Independence Township. Our residents that live in the north part of the community don't need to see that. I certainly, as you saw from, I'm sure, the news report, don't appreciate some of the imagery that goes along with it, which is we can't control. So once we're on it, it could be whatever they put up there, and the next thing is us, so we're part of all of the stuff, and concerts and people are deliberately doing provocative and different types of advertising to gain their attention. It's a marketing strategy, and we're now becoming part of it. If we felt that we, to your point, need to communicate with the residents, we're only communicating with a handful of them that go that part of the town, and that could easily be done, like with Alex's that was agreed to, that it would be done on a black background with white letters. So there's lots of ways that we could not be hypocrites, and if there was something that we felt that we needed to do. Now you've got the Independence Fest, and I drive by the sign every day. There's so much information on that sign that it's a wasted sign. You can't read all of that little writing, and we wouldn't want to promote anyone to read that much information, because that makes it even more distracting, which goes against what the ordinance are. So if we were going to use the sign, I would prefer that it be for an emergency reason with very specific, bold information, and it at least complies with the color, the background, the format, if it was an emergency formatted message that they were complying with us. But I don't see any benefit to any of our residents driving by it, reading anything that we would put on it, that for the handful of people that go that way, weighing that against the inappropriateness of us violating our own ordinances, whether it's been granted by the ZBA and allow us to, and we push that off on someone else's fault. We're the ones promoting it. We're the ones giving them the information. So I certainly would want to go on the record that I would never be in favor of it. I don't think there's enough community benefit for the negative impact, possible legal actions, or the perception of favoritism and the hindrance of us to enforce, because there are, now that the sign's been turned on, there is questionable things that need to be reviewed to see if they're in compliance with the ordinance that they weren't granted variances for, especially content. So that would be my closing remarks.
Anybody else have any other comments, questions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Terry.
I think there's a lot more than a handful of people who drive on that road of Sashabaw. And we did lose the lawsuit. It's there. I'm all about if you can let the residents get more information, because half of them don't go on our website. You know, there's things that are missed all the time, and I just look at it as another venue. If you want to restrict the background or follow the ordinance on that, but I'm fine with doing it. And as far as the huge distraction goes, I don't think that's really a viable comment anymore, because years ago, Alex's sign was supposed to be a huge distraction, and we were gonna get accidents left and right on that corner. And how many years has it been there? And I'd like to know a traffic study if that really made a difference. So, alls I'm saying is I see a ton of people online, they love it. With the way it was described, they were gonna expect this huge monstrosity. It's not the size that they were being scared into. People seem to love it, and if it's a way to get our communication out there, I think it's all the better.
Treasurer Brown.
I think it's good input across the board. For me, and I drive that way every day, a lot of times twice, because I go home for lunch. And the best thing I see on there is when I see stuff about the township, really I don't pay that much attention to the concerts that are on it, because I grew up here, so it doesn't matter to me. But I like the idea of all the people that come to Pine Knob finally finding out it's in Independence Township. Because my entire life, where are you from? Independence Township, where's that? Pine Knob. Oh, you're from Clarkston. Well, now people will start learning that. I don't necessarily have a problem with the idea that maybe we could also make a point by not using color in our stuff, and maybe, something like that that we might do differently. But they were successful in getting the rights to have that sign, and we're not in violation of anything for putting communications to the public on it. And I've also heard from a lot of people who said, man, this sign's great, they love it. I don't particularly like most of all kinds of graphics, because I can't even really tell who they're advertising or what bands they are. But when the township stuff pops up, I'm like, oh, I know what that is. So I see both sides. I don't support saying we're not gonna do anything on it. I think we're just missing a really big opportunity, and I probably would support if we wanted to tighten up how we're gonna put things on it and what's gonna go on it. I don't think that's an issue. I think that could be looked at.
Trustee Hayward?
Well, as far as the comments online, we don't know where those people live, first of all. They might just come here for concerts. That's great. They love the sign. But the people that have to live with it every day, and regardless, again, I go back to an integrity issue. Say we all voted it was illegal to have tinted windows, or we had a motion, we lost. And then I go out and tint my windows. What are people going to think about me? Why did I vote against something and then just turn around and jump on the bandwagon? I don't know what you're laughing at, Chuck, but basically the same thing is
Because laws change all the time, and everybody adapts and moves on.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I still stand for it. I mean,
The speed limit used to be 35, and now it's up higher now, so you don't drive faster?
That's a completely different, I didn't vote
It's
for
a
that.
law.
I didn't vote for that, right? We all voted we didn't like the agreement with the ZBA. Why? Because the sign was too big, because of the LED portion. Why
That's
did
not
we?
why I did it. I just
Okay, well,
explained why I did it.
regardless, okay. Regardless of that matter, I'm just telling you for my personal thing, I think that it's inappropriate that we participate in that sign, that's all.
Okay.
Thanks.
Clerk Newbeck?
To even think of having a request to have them change what they're gonna display, black and white, letters smaller, all of that stuff, that we're going to have to enforce something different on that sign, I don't believe it's worth it. I read the comments, yep, the people like the signs, most people said they couldn't even read it. They can't even read what's being displayed. We know what our stuff is because we recognize it. Again, it falls back to ethics, optics, all of that for me, and I want to make a motion to recommend that the township supervisor contact 313 Entertainment and have them immediately discontinue displaying content on the Pine Knob digital message board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Nay.
And who are the nays?
Me?
Just do a roll call, make it easy.
Okay. Let me grab one. Trustee Tedder.
Wait, can I ask you to verify your motion?
My motion is to recommend that the township supervisor contact 313 Entertainment and immediately discontinue displaying content for the township on the Pine Knob digital message board.
That's not what
So
the
you're
motion
changing the
says.
May.
That's,
Well, yeah, I
but
made
that's
my
the
own
motion
motion.
she made.
That's the motion she made.
Okay.
I don't
Oh,
want,
well, then
Okay, so you
okay.
don't even want emergency stuff?
I don't want emergency, no.
So you don't want anything on there, period.
Correct.
So unlike Alex, where we can have it, you're saying you don't even
We
want it
don't
here.
do anything on Alex.
That's irrelevant. The question is, like Alex, you're saying
Correct.
we
Okay.
can, but you don't want to
If
have it.
Because she
Pine
made-
Knob wants
okay,
to say,
point of
welcome to
order.
I'm
Independence.
clarifying.
Yeah, I don't
There's
know why
a-
we're arguing
there's a
about
Because I
motion
didn't
on the
understand
floor.
what her motion was. I was looking at this
All right.
motion. So I'm just asking for clarification on the motion.
Okay.
Okay?
I don't know.
So can you just read it one more time, and let's do a roll call then?
I move to recommend that the township supervisor contact 313 Entertainment and have them immediately discontinue displaying content for the township on the Pine Knob digital message board.
Second.
Trustee Tedder.
Yes.
Supervisor File.
No.
Clerk Newbeck, yes. Treasurer Brown.
Yes.
Trustee Hayward.
Yes.
Trustee Morocco.
Yes.
Trustee Nalamathu.
No.
Motion carried.
Okay, I will call them tomorrow. Okay, next on the list is closed session. We don't have any. Communication, future agenda items, reports. We have the report from the Building Activity, Independence Township, April 2026. Building Activities, City of the Village of Clarkson, April 2026. Oakland County Sheriff's Office, April 2026. Fire Department Monthly Report, January 2026. Fire Department Monthly Report, February 2026. Open Space Advisory Committee, April 13th, 2026. Audit Advisory Committee, February 23rd, 2026. Do I have to get that? Okay, right. Board member, at this point, any board member comments? Trustee Morocco.
I would like to take a moment to thank Mike Spiegel from the Facilities Maintenance. We met out there at Clintonwood Park. I know, I was working on the Boy Scout cabin there, and that kind of got, Brady, no, the original Boy Scout cabin that they used for programming, it's the last building there.
At Clintonwood Park?
At Clinton, oh, I'm sorry, at Baycourt.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yep.
But that building was kind of in a transition of being restored, not restored, possibly covered in vinyl siding, possibly not, not, in discussions. And we met out there, and there was a lot of stuff that he's gotten done very fast before the holiday. And I just want to make that known that he really kicked it in the butt and got some stuff done. And I think that when you go out there, it's in your face on how fresh and how good it looks. And I think he's been putting a lot of effort into that work since he got that position. So I just wanted to recognize him for that.
Excellent.
Nice.
Any other board comments? Trustee Tedder?
All right. I want to thank Supervisor File and Trustee Hayward joined me for coffee and conversation. Again, it's open to all, as long as we don't violate quorum. But had really great exchange. We were able to talk with some residents about the SAD program and that was coming forward, very positive. Continuing with those, the next one will be June 20th, 8:30. June 20th, 8:30, and we're going to keep it at the senior center. As much as I love some of our area establishments, it's a lot harder to hear, especially if you get a number of people. So that'll be at the senior center or the carriage house on Clintonwood Park property. So it'll be one of the two, depending upon availability. So I don't, at this time of this meeting, don't have that, but we're shooting for the senior center.
Okay.
And let's see, also, a resident that I run into pretty regularly brought up, I think, a pretty important, and we can talk about this offline, but right over here at Civic Center Drive and Walden, if you're walking on the sidewalk westbound, and even me at 5/8, the Civic Center, the lower sign, not the large one, completely blocks the walking sign, so you can't discern whether or not it's red or white to safely cross.
What's Civic Center Drive?
Is what's this road here?
Walden Center.
Walden Center Drive, thank you, Walden Center Drive. So, the sign, and I invite the board to look, but I'm happy, I don't want to put any work on anyone to call the road commission. They can either move it, lower it, raise it, but it is directly in the way of the walk sign. And this is an individual that unfortunately has had experience as a pedestrian, and being on the wrong side of a crosswalk with a vehicle. So, pretty sensitive topic too, but I wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
That's good, and I'll be talking to Chris Dahl
Yeah,
on
so
Thursday, so get a hold of me after the
Yeah,
meeting.
perfect, thank you. And then just lastly, I want to just explain that I appreciate tonight's exchange about the Morgan Lake development. I'm glad our developer was here to provide some context, or consultants, Mr. Kelly, et cetera. But again, perennial frustration, I brought that up last month. I'd like to see the PRD, we were being asked to modify a legal document, and without proper context, what I heard tonight was encouraging. And had I had that document in front of me, I would have represented with a yes vote. So it's not a reflection on the development or the ask, but a reflection on the frustration that I didn't have the resources necessary to really make a proper decision. So that, I just wanted to explain that context. Thank you.
Trustee Hayward?
Yeah, and I'll mention as well as the same in regards to what Trustee Tedder said regarding that. I didn't want to hold this up, though, as well, on a point of principle of not getting the documents. It's very frustrating that we don't get documents on things, but as I hear it all explained from everybody that was involved with Dave and the developer and Megan and everybody else, it seemed that there was a big failure at the township as well to continue. We just kept continuing issuing permits over the years, and this was a huge mess, obviously. And I didn't think at this point, I felt that I had gotten enough information from Megan and all the people involved that it was the right decision to make, regardless if we had that document or not, which I do in the future. I mean, moving forward, I mean, out of principle, if we don't get the documents we request, I can't imagine how we can vote yes on anything at that point. So that's to whoever puts the documents together, whatever. So that's it. Thank you.
I just have a comment on that. If you are reading something and you feel something's missing, why not email that person so it's taken care of and added to the agenda before we come here instead of delaying? That PRD's been in existence for 1,000,000 years, so after the last meeting, if you requested to look at it, you could have seen it. It's just, sometimes people get busy, mistakes happen, and some of it can be on us to just go ask for what we want. That's all.
Yeah, I would like to point out that anytime, the PRD may seem like a very obvious thing, right? It's a big document. It was a clarification, not an amendment to it. But however, if there's at any point in time you feel like there's something you need further clarification on, please reach out. Okay, what may seem obvious to you may not seem so obvious to maybe whoever's putting the MAPE together and the packet together. So just please reach out on that side.
The only issue is that I would say to that is that would be a problem, but we get it late on Thursday, the township's closed on Friday, and then I don't get it until sometime on Monday, and then I got a meeting on Tuesday to review it, so I have a very short amount of time to review it.
So if
at
you
that
ask
point.
me on Friday, because I work on Friday for
Okay.
the township.
Fair enough.
If you're gonna send it to me, I will make sure you get it ASAP.
Okay.
Okay?
Fair enough.
Now,
Yes.
with an asterisk saying that sometimes it's out of my control too to get it until Monday.
Well,
But at
that's
least
the
if you
only
notify
concern.
me.
Right, correct.
And then almost all my directors, they answer me even on Saturday and Sundays when I email them or text message them. So, again, if it just happens, we aim to do better, but if we miss something, please ask. Okay.
And what made that unique is that it was the reason we tabled, so how.
Oh, I agree. That's why I said that one's an obvious one.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nobody caught that.
And I did publicly ask for that to be included in this month's,
Yeah.
so it's not like I didn't ask.
No, I understand.
And I shouldn't have to babysit, I do have a full-time job. So, thank you.
Trustee Clerk,
Trustee clerk, oh my goodness.
Clerk Newbeck. It's getting late.
I'll bring to the next meeting an amendment to the Board of Trustees special rules that's going to back up when the MAFs are due to my office so that we can get it out earlier, so you have more time. There's no reason. Supervisor's office gets it a week prior, so we can back up our deadline at least by a day, and then you have an extra day to review it.
The primary change there, without getting into it, is really just more of the trustees' timeframe, right?
No, it's all of it, so we can get it processed and get it out. Because we don't get it till late. We don't get it until 5:30 on Wednesday, and then,
I think we should have a discussion about that because mine are much more complicated than you just putting it into a packet. So it takes time.
Can we do
to make
that
this.
later then,
So,
or-
yeah. I just
I'll
wanna
make a
put that
motion to
competition.
adjourn.
Second.
Wait, no, I'm not done yet. I just wanted to, wanted to thank everybody, okay, first and foremost. And I also would like to start giving some insight into things going forward. We don't really have a section on this, other than, we do have future agenda items, and I'm wondering maybe if we can carve that out a little bit, just to kind of help the residents understand what's coming for those things that we're convicted on, like you're talking about your MAFE, that would be something on there. The SAD would be something that would be on there. We also know that the next meeting, we're all going to have the opportunity to spend up to 5 minutes just to kind of give a high level about their CIP project and where their things are going. I think we start including that in the agenda as well. I think that would be of value to the residents so they can kind of see what's coming down the road. And that way, it's not so last minute, right, on Thursday, right, 3 days, 4 days before the meeting.
Question on that, because I was just talking to Lisa earlier about submitting a MAFE for a progress report on my committee. Are you just putting one agenda item where we're all gonna give an update?
Yeah, so.
So I'm asking if I need to do a separate MAFE or not, is what I'm asking.
No, I'm gonna carve out the time to say that, we're gonna give up to 5 minutes for each CIP project. You don't have to do the whole 5 minutes, you can have a 1 minute conversation, whatever. But each of us are gonna have a 5 minute window to go up and just kind of give an overview. Here's what we're looking at doing, here's what we've done, so on and so forth, and this is what we're looking at going forward. I mean, again, pretty simple, pretty high level, just to kind of get the residents a little excited about the things that are coming.
Yep.
Not a slideshow at this point.
Hopefully not.
Well,
Or something very, very simple one, 5 minutes.
I've got the tricky subject that we don't really want to talk about in public, land acquisition.
Yeah, you do have a chop.
So when I was talking to the people I'm working with on that when we get to the August meeting, I'm gonna really need to have a closed session.
Probably.
And I can be very vague. We're actually working on how to be vague for the next meeting.
Yeah.
But when we get to the August meeting, I'm gonna really need to be in
For sure.
private with you guys to talk about specific parcels,
Yep.
that we might be interested in, just kind of giving you a heads up on
Yeah,
that.
this meeting, my thought is, this 5 minute conversation is not necessarily, yes, it benefits all of us to hear what the other ones are doing, but it's really more to get the residents to understand, here's where we're going, here's what we're doing, here's the things. This year, I look at it as the year we start getting stuff done, right? And, that train's leaving the station, let's talk about where we're going. That's what, it's kind of like a hoorah type thing for the CIP projects that you guys are working on. Doesn't have to go into a bunch of details and all that. That will come in August when hopefully we'll probably break it over 2 different board meetings. We'll take, the first 3 and the second 4 or whatever, and then you'll have your opportunity to give the full presentation. You will need to have your own MAFE at that time, your own presentation packet and all that kind of stuff at that point in time.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Do we do MAFs for presentation?
All right, I'm going to call the
Yes.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, call the question.
I just called the question.
Oh, my goodness.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, majority.
You gotta ask
Okay.
for a vote.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
He
made motion.
I
and
made a
she
motion,
seconded.
it was seconded a while ago.
Yeah, Dave
and-
seconded.
All right, so,
recall your
all those in
motion
favor?
so we can go
yeah, what are we
home.
gonna call it? A motion? You called the question? The motion
He
to
called
adjourn?
the motion to adjourn,
Yeah, he
and I
called the
seconded
I
it.
moved to adjourn, and he seconded it like
Yeah.
10 minutes ago.
And then you guys had discussion,
I just
so
called
now
that
we
question,
need to
so now
vote.
you have to call for a vote.
Okay, can I get a vote, please, to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.